All right, friends, Zig coming in at the top today on the show. We have Michael Najarian, also known as Mad Dog, from State Radio, from Ratfynkt, and the Remote Players Club. This podcast was, or at least this interview was really exciting for me. Mike is a musician I always admired because when I was in high school, State Radio, this band had a huge impact on me. They used to do this thing, a nonprofit called Calling All Crows, and they would do service projects before each show. And their singer was a hero of mine. Chadwick Stokes is one of my favorite singer-songwriters of all time. But at the time, he was just out of the band Dispatch and started this other band, State Radio. And they would do all these shows, right? And they would do these service projects, and you can come hang out with the band and do something cool and help someone out before the show. Now, Crows is still around, so they still do service projects and awesome things. But so State Radio was touring through Columbus, and State Radio was like a more edgy punk, hard rock, reggae-driven band compared to like Dispatch. But they were touring through. They were going through Columbus, and the service project was to paint a playground. Like this playground it used to have like a big map on the ground, and it was all faded, so you can come hang out with the band and paint the playground. And I remember going there and seeing the three dudes. I'm like, that's Chad, that's Mad Dog, and that's Chuck. Whoa, this is crazy. They're real. Just geeking out because I've listened to these records for I don't even know how many years at that point, but like. So you get some paint, you start playing the playground, and then like you're working your way up to talk to the dudes, and like me and my aunt was with me, my Aunt Kim, and we started talking with Chad, and she was like hyping me up, and I'm like, don't tell me anything, but it ended up being the coolest thing ever because they were like, well, why don't you want to play a solo on one of our songs at the very end of our set? And I was like, and from that moment on, my life was changed, and I had the goal of wanting to do my own version of my own music and have my own creative fulfillment, but also find a way to make it impactful and helpful to others in any form, which is 100% of who I am now is because of this one moment. So that got done. We painted up the park. We hung out. And then I got to hang out on the bus and learn the song and then go play it. And everything was different from that day on, which brings us to now. So Mike was always, we stayed in touch throughout the years and ended up doing a couple ABT tours with State Radio and buddied up with Mike more there. And it was a really cool experience. And Mike, to me, was the guy. He was doing the real deal gig out there road dogging, doing the original music and doing it right and doing something unique and impactful and cool. So to have this conversation was a big honor and a really cool insight to something that meant so much for me growing up into the musician and the music philosophy and mindset that I have now. Michael has a book called Strange Perspectives, Volume 1, and it's a memoir of his time with State Radio and some of the crazy shenanigans they got into, and some of his memoirs from his early musical career and growing into the musician he became to be. So you can get that on Amazon. It's a digital Kindle form, and hopefully we can bug him enough to make a hard copy and to do Strange Perspectives Volume 2. So this podcast is mixed by Studio 44, CLE. If you go to Studio 44 Cleveland and reach out to Jay Sparrow on Facebook, Studio 44 Cleveland, or Studio 44 Cleveland at gmail.com, Jay can make your video, streamed, and audio needs sound the best they can be. Also, if you guys can like, subscribe, rate, review to the podcast and on the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool people and sharing these insights with you. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Michael Najarian. But one more thing. Some current updates, really cool ones. If you're new to the show, I play in a band called Sea Level, letter C dash. I don't think I mentioned it before in my preamble up until now, but letter C dash level. We got some really rad shows coming up, one of which being June 21st at the Music Box Supper Club. I'm playing a solo dolo set opening for John Doe, the legendary John Doe. I had him on the podcast a couple episodes back. So June 21st, the Music Box Supper Club, I'm doing a solo set opening for John. And then July 10th, the full band, we are opening for Yellow Man at the Grog Shop. That was probably a couple months ago. But I talked to Yellow Man, so if you dig either of those artists and you're in the Cleveland area, come hang out with us. Or if you want to hear my shenanigans and canter with those two amazing artists, dive back into the podcast catalog and check out those episodes. John Doe had some really wise things to say, and so did Yellow Man. But without further ado, here's my chat with the Mad Dog. Yo.
Dave, what's up, man? How you doing?
Not bad, Mike. How's it going?
Oh, it's going, dude.
Nice. Long time no hear. How you been?
Good, man. I've been following you on the interwebs, though. Seem like you've been pretty busy, still jamming tunes and stuff.
Trying. Despite all the madness, trying to stay busy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess busy nowadays is different than busy before that, right?
Right. Busy now is like reasonable.
Yeah, busy. Busy now. You got one gig a week or something.
Right. And the ones with the whole like time change, the ones that you do have, you're done by like 9. It's awesome.
Oh. Yes. That's not a bad thing, I guess.
No, I mean it's definitely different, but it's for working like a steady gig, it's way more doable. You know.
Yeah, I hear you, dude. Yeah, no kidding.
Congratulations, my friend, on the family. There's a family now.
There's a family. Yeah,
That's
definitely
amazing.
like. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's just a different dynamic, right?
Right.
Got to worry about your other people besides yourself.
Definitely has to be a game changer in that sense of like even just doing music before, just you're kind of floating on your own or to keep the group going, but now to put the family function into it, it's a whole nother level of fuck. I guess I will take that cover gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Now when I jam, I pretty much play with guys that have kids. I'm like in the dad band,
Dad rock.
and we play the tunes, the 80s tunes, stuff like that. So it's different, but it's cool. I mean, just to be able to play it all, you feel fortunate these days, right?
Right. Well, and yeah, with everything, with responsibilities aside, with just being able to get together with people,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely different now. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Any type of contact.
Yeah. Soon I think we'll be good though. I mean, maybe like 5 months or something, or 6 months or something like that. Like by the fall, I'm hoping that we'll be pretty good.
Fingers crossed. Are you like with that group? Is it like cover band? Is it like just jamming for fun?
Yeah. It's just like it's a bunch of guys that we'll play gigs, but maybe like once a month or something. But not since COVID.
Right.
And we've jammed here and there like with each other, but not much. I mean, I haven't been very active since COVID.
Right. Same. Everybody's been not very active. Is that the last time I remember talking, which was a long time ago? There was something about a Tom Petty cover band you were doing. Are these like?
Oh man, yeah, no, that was my buddy from college. That was like we were just playing a Halloween show, I think, and we were doing like a Tom Petty set.
Oh, okay.
That must have been like 2013 or something.
Right. It was at one of the. I think it was the last time I saw you, which was like you're dressed up as a whoopee cushion, and we were doing that 5K.
Yeah, that must have been 2012 then, right?
I think so. I don't really remember, but for some reason I remember you guys talking about a Tom Petty band. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I remembered that, but thinking of cover bands and 80s music, I guess it went hand in hand.
Yeah, that band has some original tunes, but it was covering that night. I think the idea was you're supposed to choose an artist and like play the songs, like
for Halloween,
5 or 6. Yeah, for Halloween. So that's kind of how that went. Dude, so ask you a question here. How do you
Right.
how do you usually do these casts? Um, how do we get to make sure the audio is good? Is the audio coming in good for you?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Because I can hear you.
Yeah, I definitely can hear you.
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah.
when you start recording, are you recording now or do we start?
Nah, yeah, I've been recording. I start from the top of the call, but
You start from the top of the call.
right.
What if I said something that was off the record, Dave?
I would have kept it off the record. But no, for real, near the end of this, if there's anything you want me to take out, I'll take it out. You know what I mean?
No.
I start
I'd never do that.
recording from the rip because I got it recording on a couple different things, right? I got like this cool mixer that tracks everything and puts it on an SD card. And then I got that running into a GarageBand, so it's saving everything as one file in case that fucks up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but yeah. So basically, whenever you're ready.
Dude, I am ready, man.
Sweet.
So the audio's good. The audio's good.
Yeah.
The everything's cool.
Audio's good on my end. Everything sounds, like a phone call, but since I got multi-tracked, I send it to a buddy of mine who's been helping me with all like this streamy stuff we've been doing, and he gives it the mix over and makes it sound nice.
Yeah, it kind of gets away the fuzz.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, it still sounds like I'm talking to you over the phone, but I mean, with the whole, that's how the world is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's fine as long as people can hear it, and as long as you don't notice anything like really crazy with my audio coming in, then I think we're good, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it'll be fine as long as you can hear me and I got you down, so we should be good.
Oh, we're good, baby.
Sick.
We're good.
All right. Well, I wanted to start off by asking about a buddy of yours, Evan Anderson. Anderson.
Yes.
And
Evan Anderson.
So, if you can explain the importance of him starting your musical journey.
Wow, dude, you're really getting back to the stack here, dude. Oh man, yeah, Evan. I haven't talked to Evan in a while, but every time I see him, I tell him how influential he was. He's like, "Oh, really? Yeah, I barely even play drums anymore." So I'm wondering if he's back into playing. But when I was younger, I used to call him over to my house because he was a drummer and he was a better drummer than I was, and he had a drum set. Like somehow, I don't know how he organized this, but like he had the school's drum set in his house.
Huh.
Like one of the school's kits that they owned was like in Evan's house. And he was probably like 6th or 7th grade when he got it.
Right.
And then I got a drum set in 8th grade. And Evan knew how to play because he had been jamming on the drum set that was the school's that was like in his room somehow. However he managed to get it there. And I call him over, and we were friends anyway. We'd play in the school band, and he's a good kid. And he would come. He lived like kind of through the woods from me, and he would come through the woods and let me know he was coming. He'd bang his cowbell. It was more cowbell style, and he'd come down, and I just watch him. I'm like, dude, play my kit. And he would play it, and I'd watch him, and I'm like, oh, that's how you make that sound, like a cymbal choke, like on the hi-hat or something.
Right.
I'd heard it, but I didn't know how to do it,
Yeah, well, learning can be such a visual thing. You know what I mean? You hear that sound all over, and when you see the technique to do it, and it just clarifies it.
And back in the day, this was, I'm 40 now, so back in the day, it wasn't like I could go on the internet and watch a drummer. It wasn't just like, oh, Google like how to do cymbal choke. You know what I mean? Like I had to watch someone do it in person, or like rent a video and put a VHS, or like find a TV show that was like on that had drummers. It wasn't like you could just like DVR stuff, or you'd be like, if you had cable actually at that point when I was like 12 or 13 or 14, that was decent at that time. So that was early 90s. So yeah, we got it. He would come over and he would play, and I kind of just watched him play, and he's just a great drummer. He just had such a great feel, and just his feel was something that when you're in a room with someone and you hear someone play and they have great feel and they just know what they're doing. When you're that age and you don't know how to do it, you're like, oh my God, like this is just awesome. So it's just a big inspiration for me. And it's how I really learned how to make all the different drum sounds.
To be in the room and witness it and feel it and be absorbed by it, and it's a next level type of thing. And like, especially when you think you're doing it right, you're like, oh fuck, I'm not. Like, he's doing it right. How does he do that? I'm hitting the same circles with my sticks. How's it, you know? But before that even happened, was music involved beforehand, or was that like middle school to high school? Well, 8th grade. That's right before high school, right?
Yeah. That's the year before I got into high school. I was in the school band, so I chose originally in our high school or in middle school or elementary, whatever, it's 5th grade.
Right.
They made us start. It was mandatory to play an instrument in our school. You had to choose something for that 1 year, I think it was.
Yeah.
Before you went to the middle school. And I remember like looking at like, this is like how, math and numbers based I was when I was like 10. I was like, those instruments are pretty expensive. Like if I like make my parents buy like a French horn or like a clarinet or something like that, and I don't play it, they're going to be like, why did I just spend like $300, on this thing? Because you had to pay in like installments. And the cheapest recurring payment they had was for a snare drum. And I was like, that seems the safest to me because it seems like you need the least amount of talent to do it because you don't have to like play notes, you just like bang on a drum.
Right. It's
not like a drum set. Yeah. It's just like,
I get
you
this.
hit the drum. Yeah. You hit the drum, just hit it. And then it was the cheapest one. I'm like, so if they buy it and I just quit, it doesn't really matter. They'll be like, whatever, just the drum. And they'll probably be happy because the drums are really loud and like annoying.
Quieter than a trumpet though, without a mute or whatever. You know what I mean? Start squealing on that.
Yeah, I know. So I had like the pad. I actually think I still have the pad that they gave me in like 5th grade to put over the snare drum. But my dad was kind of like, I don't know, like drums. And my mom was like, I wanted to play drums when I was a kid, and my parents wouldn't let me. So like, I want to be the cool parent who lets my kid play the drums because no one wants their kid to play the drums. Turns out no one wants the kid to play the drums. I was trying to do him a favor.
Right.
Getting the cheapest instrument. And it turns into like, the worst case scenario for the parent because I'm banging on drums learning and just awful. And usually the practice is at the drummer's house because they have they don't want to lug their kit, right? So like, my mom was a saint. My dad was a saint to let me bang away like that and to have people over and play. But yeah, so they eventually said yes, and I started playing snare drum, and in the school band, either you could play bass drum with just like the mallet, or you could play timpani, or you could play like cymbals. Like one time I was the cymbal guy, I just hit that like the 2 crash cymbals together at one time. And then 8th grade, I was still playing and I was getting into it. And like I said, my buddy Evan was playing kit, and I asked my parents for a kit, and I got kind of like a starter kit that was it had 2 roto toms instead of real toms. And those toms, actually, I was jamming with Evan one time, and like, buddy, when the band he was playing in high school, and I think I left it over one of their houses, and I've yet to recover them. So those are gone. My faded rototoms are gone, man. But after that, I ended up about a year or 2 later getting the kit that I used in the state radio. I got a Yamaha Stage Custom 93.
Yeah.
Or 94, maybe 94. A 94 Stage Custom. And I just have played that kit ever since.
Damn.
So like once I got through that starter kit and I started getting into it, my parents realized I was practicing and I was getting better. They were like, all right, well, like, do you want to get like a drum set, and I was like, sure. And I think it was Christmas and it was like half price. And the guy was like, if you're really looking to get a decent kit, to get away from you already have a starter kit. Like, this is probably the lowest level I'd go, and it's like half price right now, which was still expensive at the time, you know?
Right. And where'd you get it? Was it just a mom and pop shop?
Yeah, it was just a local shop. They told my parents to do it. Like, I wasn't even there. They got it for a Christmas present, you know, and the guy, and they just basically trusted him. And they were like, okay, it's kind of a lot. I think it was like $900 at the time, or $1,000 or something, which was kind of a lot. And they were like, but he's like, this is a much better kit than that. Like, this is going to last them. Like, I promise you. And it did. I still play it. I still play the same kit, and I'm 40. So pretty cool.
That's awesome. The miles on the kit.
And
with as much touring as you've done with that kit, the fact that it's still held up speaks to that investment paying off.
Unbelievable kit. I mean, I didn't have cases. Actually, the first time we went on the road with State Radio, they showed up to pick me up. I was living in an apartment in Alston, Mass.
Yeah.
And they showed up to pick me up. And it was like, I think it was like 11:30 in the morning. And I was used to going to work. I was working for like a big accounting firm. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I don't have to do anything today. I'm just sitting there. And they show up, and I like start bringing my drums out, and they're like, where are the cases? I'm like, I don't have any. I didn't have drum cases for that kit until I was like 25.
Damn.
So I had 10 years. I was like, and I bring it around in college, and it's just like, they were like, so you think we're just going to put all your stuff, like, and like my cymbal stands in the van, and it's just going to survive like a tour? I'm like, I
hope so.
Guess not. So we drove right to the Guitar Center, and I had to buy drum cases. Oh God, man, so funny. I still have the same drum cases too, because at that same token, they were like, yeah, you can get cases, you know, the softer ones or whatever, but you might have to replace them.
Right.
Relatively shortly.
Wear out, the handles tear.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just, why don't I just get the cases that will last? Because my kit is 10 years old, and I feel like it's going to be good forever.
Right.
So now I did the same thing. But it was not fun. It was probably like 1/10 of the salary I made that year to buy the cases, maybe even more than that. It was insane.
Well, we made this gig. This is what we got. We got right off the base case. So here's your cut.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, here's your money. You already spent it before you got on the road. Oh man.
Oh, but that makes a difference though. And when you don't tour like that, you don't think about that type of, like, Chad's a road dog. Like, he's been hitting the road forever, and like, they knew what you would need. And like, but you wouldn't think that if you're, going out for the first time.
No, dude, the face that they made when they saw what I was doing, they were like, is this kid a joke? Like, I was so green, I had no idea. I'd never been on a tour. I didn't know anything about it. And it was almost, I mean, I guess it would have been embarrassing if I had like any clue.
Right.
But I had no clue. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go buy some. Whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, sure,
right.
Whatever. But it was interesting.
Yeah. So like before we get to that step, in between, once you start really taking the kit on and really getting into making music, what was the first band? Was it the Crowding Out Effect, or was that in college?
That was college. Yeah, you're pretty good, man. You I was gonna say that you read the book that I wrote.
Right. Strange Perspectives, Volume 1. When's Volume
1?
Volume 1. That you set it up for a sequel, man.
I did. And then, I did set it up for a sequel, and now I don't know if I have enough interesting things to write anymore. But
I doubt that.
In the time, but I should. I have enough. Come on, let's get confident. Hey, confident.
You got this.
I got Volume 2.
Right, and that was before answering that question. That was so well written, and like the dive and like the memoir aspect of it. Like, this is awesome. I should have, like, every December-ish I see you share it, right? And
I try my marketing.
Right. And every December, I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. I'll wait till I can get a physical copy because I like to read books that way. And I'm like, nah,
Right.
whatever. But it
I know.
was.
I should get a physical copy,
I
but
wonder,
it's
is it that's probably? Do you have to pay if you go through Amazon? Someone said my buddy just put out some like book on Amazon, and
Mhm.
you order it, and it just costs more for the person ordering it. I think.
and they actually print it up.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, it's really not like a moneymaker, for me. It's just like if people read it, I'm just excited that they read it at this point. You're like, wow, people actually read the book. I would, yeah, I'm open to anything, man. I'm open to anything. Anyone listening out there that has any ideas, I mean,
Pitch.
how I would get physical copies in Dave's hand,
Yes.
you tell me, and I'll get one in his hand.
Pitches for
Um,
volume 2.
yeah, for volume 2 or volume 1. The thing is, I was gonna say, like, I wrote that so long ago that you probably know better than I do about what happened in my life 10 years ago, because I'm just like, I'm like, oh man, I'm probably gonna. My memory might be worse than like what Dave actually knows about my past at this point.
Well, I think that speaks to your writing, so
Well, there
listeners
you
can
go. I like
dive
how you
into the
pivot that.
book. See?
Pivot that. That's right. Pivot right to there. You need to be my PR.
I don't know if that was. I don't know if that'd be good, man. I'm
I
still
think
working
it's
hard
good.
on Sea Levels PR.
Yeah, yeah. No. Sea Level sounded good too.
Thanks, dude. That means the world coming for you. For real.
Yeah,
I
it
really
sounded
appreciate that.
good. I was watching. What was the one you released, like a show?
Um.
Or you released some like footage from a show you played recently. It was like
Oh.
a benefit show or something.
Oh.
Like right before New Year's.
Was it the
Maybe it was
dog?
before.
Oh, before New Year's.
Maybe it was before New Year's or right
Okay.
after New Year's.
Right. So we had our anniversary show, and what we did was we
That
did
one. Yeah.
2 nights. We played the Grog Shop and the Winchester or the Beachland Ballroom, and it was
Great.
COVID
Great.
numbers and precautions, and we streamed
Yep.
it, and
Yeah, that was it.
everything we raised was a donation 100% to the venues, and
Right. Right. Awesome idea too. Great venues.
right, thanks. But what's kind of odd, particular about that, and this is I guess my state radio geekiness. I remember the first time my Sea Level played there at the Grog Shop. Our first show was on
Yeah.
November the 4th, which it always stuck out of my head, stuck in my brain because of that one song you guys have, or once. What was it? The actor, Ron the actor. There was like that
Oh
little
yeah.
bit before, and it's like November the 4th, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, cool. That was, dude. Chad, like, didn't he climb on like the pipes there one
Right.
time or something like that?
Yeah, and
He was like,
hitting your cymbals, hitting his guitar on your cymbals and shit.
he was like hanging like a monkey upside down, like smashing says, like, this place is awesome. Like, where I can't believe they're letting us do this. It's so cool. Such a great venue. But so the streaming show, then I watched the streaming show. I watched a
Damn.
bit of that show.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, I was
Appreciate
watching that show. And that was cool, man. I was like, dude, Dave is good at guitar singing, huh? It was like, wow. And the band is good. The band is really good. I mean, you guys have. It was like musically like a very high level of musicianship as well, just from like a critical standpoint. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, these guys, they sound good, and they're playing like intricate stuff, and they're very together. Dynamically, it was really good. So
well, thanks, man.
yeah.
It really it means the world, my friend.
Yeah, keep doing it. I was, I already knew you could play, obviously, because I'd heard some stuff that you'd done, and you played with us.
Right. We jammed out on the bus and stuff, and then that one cool Columbus spot.
Yeah.
And actually, the Grog Shop too.
But you played a solo once too, wasn't it?
Right.
The Grog Shop though. Where was that play? Was that?
It was at the Grog and the place in Columbus, whatever.
Yeah, the Columbus place.
Shit,
That
I
place
don't
was
even think that venue's
pretty big,
around
right?
anymore. Yeah, no, that was
Bigger than the Grog.
Right. It was bigger than the Grog, and that was right when I was finishing up high school, and it wrecked the rest of my life.
Yeah. I understand. I understand what you're saying. But you had like the nerves. There was no nerves that could like. You were just like ice water in your veins. Like you just like came up there and you started ripping, and I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Because usually you have like a little bit of a nervous like energy when you
Right.
this stage, like they hadn't been playing the whole set, so like we're all warmed up, but you would just like fit right in, like you were just like you're hot as a pistol coming right out the gate. So
Well, I'm glad it came off that way.
that's what it came off. I don't know if that's what you felt
Nope.
inside.
Oh,
Oh, really?
man.
You felt nervous?
Yeah, of course.
It didn't seem like that at all. Oh man! But
Thanks,
so
man.
listening to you play though, and I was like, live performance is so crazy, right? Especially when you're not in the room. So
Right.
you might, when I listen back to myself like on a video, it doesn't sound the same as I felt it did when I was feeling the energy of the crowd and things were put back and forth. So a lot of live video, you're like, maybe it's like cool in the venue, but it's not really like coming across as cool, or like the mix is coming weird because you don't hear bass or something. But that live stream was great. I was like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like I felt like it, like that great energy and like the dynamics and everything you guys were doing over the internet, which is like, that's hard to do.
Damn. No, that means the world. I can't say that enough. Like, that's awesome.
It was awesome, dude. I watched the Foo Fighters did like a concert when they were playing, but there was no audience. But I was like, this isn't that great. Like, it just didn't sound like what their energy live. Like it's just so amazing. You know, like Foo Fighters' energies.
Right.
Well, you know,
that's the show. That's the show. Is Dave Grohl like, oh, you know, like burning up the stage.
Yeah, and I was like, it doesn't like translate, because I know what it was like to be there.
Right.
So I can only imagine, like, it must have been it was so cool to be there too, you know? If I'm thinking it's cool over the internet, it's got to be super cool to be there, watch you guys live.
Well, thanks, man. One day we got to, when stuff's back together, we'll put something together. That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. That would be so fun. My first band was, like, I played in, like, a high school band in my basement. That was my first band.
Yeah.
And then
every band comes from the basement.
Yeah, in high school. And it was like we played at like the 8th and 9th grade dances.
Right.
We played Nirvana tunes.
And you sung that, right? You were singing and playing some of those tunes.
I was, man. I was a singer, and like it was a very triumphant moment, because like the cool band, like Evan actually was in like the band was like, you know, Cooler Kids. and I was in the band, you know, we weren't just as cool,
right?
But we played so heavy. We played these Nirvana jams, and so, you know, Teen Spirit, I think, you know, we played that. I remember learning that drum fill like the day of, because I could never get how he did that with the kick drum. He's like, right. I'd always do it on like the toms. I'd be with my hand, you know. Yeah. And I realized, I'm like, he's flamming on the snare, and he's doing the kick, and he's like he's pounding with the hi-hat, he's just tapping with the hi-hat, and it was like it like clicked, like in class, you know, when you're sitting in class and you're just drumming on your knee, and I'm like, oh my god, I can do this drum fill. That's so cool.
Like, can you tell me about the what the ancient Egyptians were doing, Michael? And you're like,
yeah. But you just always think you're gonna flub, you know, when you first play a show, and it was just really cool to play a show, and we played like 3 songs at the dance or something, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
did pretty well, and we were just like, you know. The other band played great too. You know, I mean, they were a good band. They were musically better. They were a great band, musically better than us. But we like held our own with them. We were like on par with them, and I felt like, oh man, this is really cool. You know, maybe I can do this again.
Right. Well, that's all you need when you first start. Is it didn't fail. We got through it. And the sing Teen Spirit and play drums? It's hard enough, that song in particular, to sing that chorus with the bar chords with that rhythm, you know what I mean? Like, and the register is high. And especially if you do it in the original key, which even though it's half step down, you're like belting like a high A flat, you know what I mean? Like, That's
he's
not an easy one to sing.
it's the toughest, and honestly, like it probably sounded like poo poo, um, but it was an attempt. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was the energy was there, and we didn't like really mess up that bad. If you don't have a train wreck, and I remember Chad saying this the first Boston show we played to me. He's like, listen, like if we don't have a train wreck, then like I consider it a successful show at a big show.
Right.
So just go out there and just try to keep, just keep it. We'll just keep it together. As long as we don't like flop dead on our face, then it's a successful show.
Right. If you get through it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think that's what it is. You have your certain level that you play, and as long as you don't like fall flat on your face, then it's a successful show. And if you do fall flat on your face, then you just kind of acknowledge it and move on from it. I think that's one thing I learned from Chad too, is he'll just acknowledge that it happened. He's not trying to be like we're infallible musicians. Right. Make a joke about it, or
yeah,
be like, and he always knows how to charismatically play it off well as the guy up front. So definitely. It's pretty easy to play with him like that.
Like when you see him do lyric or completely forget lyrics to a song, he like plays it off super, start talking about shit and stop playing. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
covers himself up pretty well. But that's cool.
Yeah, he humanizes the experience. Instead of like trying to make it like, oh man, like I messed up and I'm so cool, and that's like so crappy that like I messed up on something. He'd be more like, yeah, I'm a human too. Let's just get through it.
In Boston shows had to be bonkers for you guys.
Boston shows were great.
Right.
They were great shows. First of all, it's a homecoming show.
Right.
And we'd usually play those shows on our way back from the tour. I think maybe to warm up, at other places, and the biggest shows we played, we did have a couple shows under our belt. So you're traveling home. A lot of times you'd stay home. It would be like the end of the tour. You're close to the end of it. Everyone comes out for you. And we're from there, so the biggest crowds we get anyway.
Right.
It's like you're just psyched.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's interesting because I've seen some people do it the other way, where they start home, right, and then they have the big home show, and then you go out of town and it dwindles. You know what I mean? We're playing in somewhere we're not from.
You're playing in Montana.
Yeah.
And people are great in Montana actually. Yeah. But it's not the same feeling as your home show, because it's just not your home, I guess.
Right, but it makes more sense to make it like you run home the final stretch, and then there's this big celebration, in the way of this amazing show that's like, we can do this again.
Yeah, exactly. And Chad would also say, when we were driving, he's like, going east. He always felt good going east because he knows he's coming home. We're going out west. We're starting the tour and we're embarking on the journey, and that's great too. But like, it felt nice to be going east because we're coming home,
making the round home. I imagine. Well, yeah. I remember seeing you guys in like Arkansas and Little Rock, and like in the stream of those shows, and like Houston, or was it Houston? It was Dallas and Austin with Full Service.
Right. Oh yeah, those guys are awesome.
Yeah, those guys are incredible.
That guy's quite a drummer.
Right. And like
and he sings.
Yeah. With a Hogue.
Yeah, like an angel.
Right. He's got this amazing falsetto, and like they do all this crazy cool creative stuff. He's doing like puppets now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's doing like puppet telegrams.
Oh, so cool.
So I think it's Hogue's puppet telegrams, or if you look up Hogue and puppet telegrams, you can get a custom made telegram.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I should get one. He's amazing. He's such a talented guy. All those guys are super talented.
And he's doing the studio stuff now. Like he mastered our stuff, and like.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. He mastered our last record, and he started a studio called Dream Studio out of Austin.
Nice.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy.
And it's just, they're so quirky and cool, and like But those shows, so I imagine like going out west would be kind of like gaining the new crowd, where coming back east would be like going back to familiar territory for the whole group, because that's where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you, uh, until Chad said it. I think it's a mental thing too, because when you're going out, if you're having if you're feeling at all stressed about the situation on the road, or you're missing home or whatever, when you're going west, right, you're going farther away,
Right.
and you're not like you haven't rounded the base yet at that point. But when you're coming back, maybe it's just like his headspace is like, okay, like we've done half the, we're coming back. We're
Right.
past halfway through typically, and we're like we're rolling now. And it's like the mental, like gathering up that momentum and steam.
It's all downhill.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it so? Kind of. How old were you when you started playing with state radio?
It was probably 25.
25. Okay.
So I had, yeah. So I wasn't young, but to me that's young nowadays.
That's pretty young. How far? Like, you went to college. Where'd you go to college? You went for science, right?
I went for accounting and finance.
In finance. I don't know where I got science then.
This the management sciences, the school, like CSOM.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Carroll School of Management. But yeah, I went to Boston College.
Okay.
I'm a BC guy. Man. Yeah,
Hey.
Boston College, wicked cool.
Wicked cool.
Cool. And yeah, I liked college. I liked high school. I had a lot of fun in both of those settings. And like you said, I played in a band called the Crowding Out Effect.
Right.
In college.
Okay.
I sang a little bit in that band, but we had a great songwriter and lead writer, like a guitar player, singer. It was Sean Boyle, and we played most of his originals, maybe like one of mine here or there. And that's when I started playing in like the clubs.
Gotcha.
With junior year, yeah. I started playing out, and we were playing in the clubs. We played at like Great Scott before it was not around anymore. Now it's not, but that place was an iconic place. It got taken over by Live Nation, and this place called Harper's Ferry, which got taken over by Live Nation, I think too. But they basically, I don't know if Great Scott got taken over by Live Nation. I don't, but it was just harder to get a gig there after, like 5 years ago,
right.
10 years ago. It was just those two places. They had like national acts coming around. It wasn't like that before. They had some, but it was more like the local scene, and people would show up for the live music.
Yeah. But then it became like the House of Blues type crowd. It sounds like when you're getting those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They took it over because it just wasn't making. I don't think kids were going out to see live tunes as much. I think it was more like dancing and clubs and that kind of thing. So I don't think that the venues were making as much money off of just local bands coming in and kicking around the crappy tunes, But yeah. It was so fun, and I like the songs we had. I'm trying to push for, in my college reunion, it would be my 20th in 2023.
Yeah,
I'm trying to push Crowding Out Effect to play one of like an event at the reunion. Yeah, I'm trying to get us back together. And the first they were like, "Are you serious?" Like, I'm like, "Yes, I'm serious." And 2 years ago, after the 15th, I was like, "Guys, we got to play at a reunion. This would be so fun."
Are they all still around? Are they all still around Boston?
No. Nope, not at all.
Oh, shit.
So, Shop from Alaska.
Okay.
I don't know where he is now. Where is he now? He might be back. I don't know where he is. He might be in Alaska. Tom down. He's from Baltimore. He's out in that area, DC, Baltimore area. Jeff,
that's doable.
Yeah, I don't know where he is. Yeah, they're all over the place. Everyone's all over the place. But I'm just that's the thing, right? I started planning it like 2-3 years ago. I'm like, guys, come on, like because I knew it was going to take some convincing to get them to fly in. Everyone has kids, but
yeah, the family's always complicated stuff.
Yeah, just getting older does.
Well, yeah, and living far, and like what I mean, like to get together to go like to put together the show, you got to have the practice. You can't. The show can't be the practice. You need at least
No,
two
yeah,
runs
no.
through. It's not fair to put yourself out there like that without doing that.
You don't want to be like, yeah. You
Right.
might want to play again at the 50th reunion too. You can't
Yeah.
suck on the 20th, dude.
That leaves some bad days. No one's gonna come out.
It's gonna. I mean, no, we can't have that play 30 years ago. They were terrible.
Humor.
God, we're awful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I love playing. I loved playing in college with those guys. It was just so fun. And right out of college, one of the bands I played in college, we trade off shows, was playing a band called Plan B.
I was just about to ask. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the drummer he was awesome actually. Andy was great. But Rob Malouf was the guy. He was from the same hometown as Chad, and his older brother was the same grade as Chad. So like he knew that Rob had played guitar, and when he was looking to get a new drummer in state radio after Brian was there in 2003 maybe.
Okay.
Rob had recommended me to go play to try out for the band.
Right.
So I went over to try out with Chad, and I talked to him on the phone a couple times, and he was like, I want to be like Rage and Tool. I want to break free from the Dispatch sound and get hard rock. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you called the right guy. Because the reason why I really wanted to play drums it was such a thrill to play in like a big venue, like an amphitheater, was seeing Tool play. And watching Danny Carey play at Lollapalooza in like 96 or maybe that 96, I don't remember, one of those years. I was like 16 or 17. And just the way he hit the drums it was mind blowing. He's just huge, first of all. And he just smashes, but he's so clean.
Right.
So precise. And just the sound he was creating, I was like, this is if I could make the sound, if I could like be part of something like this and hit the drums like that and like know that when I'm hitting the drums, it's an extension of me is going out, like what's going out from him, then like I could die happy. You know what I mean? It's like one of those moments when you're like, I'm experiencing this, and if I can experience this from like being the one who's creating the sound, then I wouldn't know what to do after that. So I was talking to Chad. He mentioned Tool and Rage, and I'm like, oh, dude, like you got to know. You know what I mean? Like, that's like that's my dream, man. So I went over and tried out, and he was like, it didn't go like that at all, Dave. It went like he was trying to teach me how to play reggae.
Oh boy!
And he was telling me that kick drum was on the third beat.
Right.
He's like, so I think you put the kick drum on the 3.
Right, that one drop.
I'm like, that's where the kick drum usually is, though, like. But so you want me to stick click on like the upbeat, like,
right?
Or I guess would that be the downbeat, right? Because if you're doing like kick snare, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the kick is on the 3. So it was getting really confusing, and we couldn't like figure out. I didn't really know how to play reggae at all.
Yeah.
And he was trying to explain something to me that wasn't correct. It's really like weird tryout.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not right.
Yeah. This isn't rage at all. This is the opposite of rage. This is content. This is relaxing.
What is happening? And he was also trying to like, he, in typical Chad fashion, we know him now, like he like opened up his pedal board
right
when I got there.
Okay.
After like I'd sat down and like talked to his parents or something for 5 minutes, and he opens up his pedal board and like all his pedals fall out to the ground, and you're like, okay, so he's starting to like put it together.
Needs the case now?
Yeah, exactly. He's like trying to put his pedal board together, and he's like, and this is like a great use of the word befuddled, but
Yeah.
he's like, this always befuddles me. So he can't figure out how to put his pedal board together.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like setting up my drums, and I'm sitting at my drum set like watching him, and he's like, I think this chord goes in here. I don't know. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, but it made me feel comfortable because
Right. It humanizes it, right? It lives
yes.
in the error in a way that's not an error, and now it's just what's happening.
It was actually like perfect, exactly what needed to happen for me to,
Right.
to relax. And then I think I came back for another tryout, or I don't know if I did, but we played some rock stuff too, like here, you know, in the I don't know which time this was, but he had called me the first time, and I was just so annoyed by, I was like, this is not going to be the band I want to be in, you know,
Right.
this is not going to be the hard rock band. I was 23. I was just getting out of school. I was feeling invincible. I just got a job too. That was like, at the time, you know, it was like paying me enough where I could have an apartment.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up his call.
Oh,
I just let it go to voicemail.
Click.
And he left the voicemail, and I'm like, this guy's a liar. You know, I'm like, you know, so self-righteous at the time. I'm like, this guy's a liar. He lied to me. I'm not gonna play in his band. Like, if he's gonna lie to me about that, like, why would I play in his band?
Come on, having reggae.
Right. So we didn't connect that time, and then 2005 rolls around, and I had actually changed my number. And my mom went to the Verizon store we were on like the same plan. Like she was on my plan. And she tried to switch. She got a new phone, and somehow they screwed it up and put my old number on her new phone. And she didn't realize it.
Huh. Okay.
And then,
oh boy.
Yeah. So then she like just realized she starts getting messages. She's like, this is weird. So for a month, I don't know why she didn't go like immediately go, but she didn't get back to the store for like maybe a couple weeks or whatever, you know, by the time it all shakes out. In that interim, Chad called that phone again. Yeah. And my mom said she was like, I only picked up one phone call that I didn't know because I figured it was for you.
Yeah.
And she goes, I got a funny feeling that I had to pick up this phone call.
Weird. Whoa.
And she picked up Chad's call.
Yeah.
And he was like, she's like, you know, where's Mike? Blah blah blah. I had seen Chad at like a adult dodgeball league game, which kind of like put me back in his brain. Right. And he called me to try out for the band again. Okay. And he was just like, yeah, you never called me back. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think I said probably like I didn't ever get your call.
Yeah. Yeah. Covered it up.
Yeah. And by that time I was 25, and I'm like, you know what, reggae ain't sounding so bad these days, you know, like working in the corporate world,
getting a little more irie. Like,
yeah, reggae's cool, man. I'll play whatever you want. Just get me out of this rat race, right? And then I tried out again. We played once. I think we had a second one where he wanted me to like sing with him, right? And he was in this apartment, and he was renting, and the woman who like owned the place lived upstairs, and she came down, and she was like trying to tell us to be quiet, you know, like you would like in an apartment when you're like being like annoying and playing. Right. And she's like, yeah, could you quiet down? He's like, you know, and we had just finished, and he's like, yeah, we're done. He's like, but how did it sound? And she's like, I don't know. It's just a little loud, you know. He's like, but like, how did it sound? Like, how did the vocals sound? And she's like trying to like ask her, like, and she's just like, yeah, it just was a little loud. I just, you know, it's getting a little late. It's a Sunday night, you know. She's like trying to explain why she wants us to stop, and he's like trying to get like feedback on the audition. And I was sitting there like this is like a Martian talking to like someone from Venus or something, you know. It was like he's trying to get an answer whether he should like put me in the band, and she's trying to be like, just I don't care how it sounded, like it's just the volume is what I care about. Just stop.
That's awesome. See,
yeah, it's typical like chat, you know what I mean though. You can see it happening. You can see how that would like he's like yeah, okay, well stop, we're done, whatever, who cares, you know. But like, how did it sound?
That's so cool. Like it
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel to be a songwriter and like and to live in that ether like Chad kind of he's putting out stuff endlessly. Like you have to be kind of like either that tunnel vision or hyper focused or like hyper unfocused. I don't even know what it is, but I feel like
Yeah.
there's a certain thing about someone who functions like that, and like that's
Yeah.
hilarious. That should have been in the. But that's perfect for perspectives too.
Oh yeah, I didn't put that in. I don't remember if
No,
I
you
didn't
didn't.
put
You
that.
gotta put that in there.
Oh, that's a great one, man. Yeah, he honestly like for the songs that you've heard of Chad's songs, there's probably like 40 songs that you haven't heard. So for
Yeah.
every song that like gets recorded, there's hundreds. He has hundreds and hundreds of songs.
Wow.
Uh,
Is it just?
he just yeah, like how does do it? I
No,
don't
I was
I
just gonna say, is it he just like on the road? Is he just constantly writing?
no.
No.
Ne-
Weird.
Never like on the
Right?
road. He barely ever.
Whoa.
He just focuses on the tour.
Yeah.
He just like he's just super talented at writing songs, and I think that when he sits down, every time he sits down to write a song, I'm sure he comes up with a song.
Damn.
You know?
Did it rub off on you? Did you get some of that like focus?
I honestly, I have a similar situation with
Yeah.
like more songs than I've recorded, but they're just not as good. So, you know, he's just better. He has a better understanding of the guitar. First of all, he has a better understanding of his vocals, or he's better. I mean, he's a much better singer. He's also just has a better understanding of what people want to hear. He has that gift where he can just translate like what he what he has inside and how it's going to affect somebody and how people are going to react to it. I think he knows he has this a universal quality, I think,
Yeah.
to his writing. I think all the great songwriters have that.
Yeah.
And I think that he has that, and he knows how to use it. You know, he's just one of those guys. He independent artist who's as big as the biggest rock star out there. With if he wanted to be, he could be out there all the time, touring and selling out stadiums. It's insane.
Right.
He's just a great writer, and he puts a lot of work into it. So he gets the shell of the song, and it could be written originally as a 5-minute kind of jam that he has. He'll usually pare it down. He'll cut out different sections. He'll go back in the ones that he wants to focus on. And then we'll kind of we would battle test the songs live, see how they come across, how audience would react to it. We try different sections at different times. Maybe the bridge should come here. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should cut this intro to half as long, and you do a sound check, and then you try it live and see how it felt, and you'd kind of end up with a structure that was as tight as it could be through doing that kind of work on the song and battle testing it.
So chiseling away at it, chisel what you don't need and what you do need.
Right. So he takes a great song. It's already a great song, and he makes it into a better song. And more compact, more digestible.
Right.
And in the form that's probably, it's might not be the best form the song could ever be in, but it's a pretty good form. It's pretty good. It'll get a pretty decent reaction live, and that's how. And then you'd have song ready to record. So it's a long process with him, and he has a lot of material, and that's how it gets pared down, though.
Interesting. That's super. It makes a lot of sense with just being on one of those tours and seeing you guys chip away. I can't remember what new song it would have been.
Yeah, we probably did that, right? You probably saw that happen.
I think it was Adeline.
Oh yeah.
And
yep, that we had totally
and that sticks in my mind because I remember Sybil saying she didn't like it, or something like that. And
right, yeah, probably. That sounds about right. She might not have been liking the situation at that point either. She's like, I'm on the road. Just give me at it. smelly guys.
Yeah, I can't imagine she enjoyed most of that. I can't imagine you guys enjoyed most of that, except for
Yeah.
the 2%, that full service philosophy of the 2%, which is playing. Like,
Yeah.
um,
No, at that time I enjoyed that. You didn't do it if you didn't enjoy it
right.
at that point, because as much as it seemed like we had, there's deep pockets on those tours. We were in a tour bus and stuff. Like, I mean, the amount of money I was making, man, it was really small compared to
Yeah.
what I would really need if I wanted to, live with a family and stuff. So, um, I ended up coming back from tour, and I never really had any savings.
Yeah.
Never had any retirement plan stuff. It was like I was barely getting by, barely. And I lived with my mom till I was like 30. Then I got a cheap apartment. Eventually, saved up some cash to get a cheap apartment. So like I had to get unemployment.
Damn. Yeah.
To apply for unemployment because I couldn't afford, especially in Boston. And Boston's expensive, but like
Right.
I wasn't even in town, and it just to get by. And I had student loans and stuff, not big ones, not big student loans, but a couple hundred a month going out.
Yeah.
But like you're like, it just was like and we were touring. We were touring, 6 months a year, maybe 8 months a year at the most.
That
So
that's half of the
get a
year. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it was sporadic. So I couldn't just get like a job,
Right.
in like accounting, where they expect you to stay there and like be a steady worker.
No, because we're with like just even reading through the book, reading how you guys would sporadically pick up stuff like the Justice Tour, and just like you when opportunities come, when something like that, you can't not take it,
No,
especially when you're like at that level where you're still trying to persevere and break through. And
yeah,
that makes I don't know, having a house way harder. It's
is it possible?
insane.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could barely afford. Like I was paying like $400 a month in rent.
Right.
I was like killing me,
Fuck.
for a
Yeah.
couple hundred student loans, and you're like, oh man, that's a lot of money. Now I'm like, that kind of money right now is like that gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't live $400 a month in rent in around Boston. That does not exist. Like that's why it's so crazy with this pandemic. And it's like if you didn't have a safety net to begin with, you're in trouble right now. This was not a good situation the last year and a half.
Especially if you were living on the road and now you can't go anywhere.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But even so, even at a band at our level, a lot was being thrown back into the band. A lot was being management thought it was important for us to. I mean, I'd talked to them a lot. Me and Chuck were like, listen, this is not a livable wage that we're getting paid. I think the most I made in a year was maybe like 25 grand, 20 to 25 grand off of the band. Like this is not really like a livable wage.
Right.
So like, can we not go on the tour bus? Can we just like go back to the van? Or when we were in the van, we asked if we could sleep in the van every other night and get paid the hotel, the money we're getting paid for the hotel.
Right. The van's comfy if it's warm.
No, it's not comfy, but it was like, dude, the first year I think I made like 12 grand, 10 or 12 grand or something. And I was like, coming from like, I was living in an apartment, and I was like, all right, like I went to live with my grandfather immediately. And then, then went back to live with my mom. And I'm like, and then eventually I was like, guys, come on. Like we're traveling around in a tour bus, let's, and they're like, well, we feel it's very important for you to be like, get enough rest to put on a good show. We don't want you to be like tired. And, so I guess like we're putting a lot back into the band in that way, and like, I was like, well, we're buying like, we're renting lights and we're getting huge banners. And you're like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, guys, come on, I need to get paid some money, like I'm not greedy, but like
just enough to keep going. Yeah.
By the time, like I pay taxes and I'm paying a ton of tax, but you're like, what am I really netting?
Right. Right.
like a
That,
1,500, $2,000 a month maybe. And I'm like, my rent. See, I'm out of the gate. Like I had a car. I had a car that I had bought, I was leasing.
right, but
At
you have
that
to pay to
point,
park it
like
when you're not using it. Like,
right, yeah, yeah, parking. Oh, damn, yeah, dude. When I was at the apartment, I had to pay like $150 to like park the car because it was in the city. That's
right,
crazy.
right.
This is ridiculous. Yeah, I was paying like before. I was paying like $800-900 a month in rent. You know,
Yeah,
and
for
it
a
and,
place.
and like to like eat.
Yeah,
Like $1,500 like net a month. Like that wasn't gonna happen. It wasn't gonna happen. Or $2,000 a month. That was just not
no.
gonna happen. And
And
that was my peak.
damn.
25 grand. So
Right. And on the side note of like, you have the story about how you guys would only like go for a certain type of fuel and organic food. So when
oh
you
yeah, yeah,
like or
yeah.
Chadwood or whatever, like so when you're putting that in there too, that's a little pricier.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. You're like, okay, like yeah. What can I get in the Whole Foods for under $5? Oh, nothing. Okay,
here's a granola
but
bar.
yeah, yeah. But they eventually started, I think, doing like per diems towards the
Mm,
end of the band,
gotcha.
which was cool, which was great. But it was like it was one of those things where the band was at a decent, like that's what it was like being in a band at that level.
Right.
Like putting money back into the band and Chad was, he was the leader of the band. He had the say in what was paid out.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had some stuff coming in from Dispatch too.
Right.
Because they so I don't think he was too worried about it. But even so, if he was to start that band up and you were at that level and you wanted to put what we put into the band to make those shows what they were, that's what you'd be taking home as a member in the band.
Yeah.
There's only 3 people in that band. That's
pretty
crazy.
right. Right. Well,
That's how hard it is.
yeah, so
That's how
much
hard it is.
goes into like just paying for the studio time and the thing you're putting out to keep going, like the menu of songs that you try to sell every time you tour. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, you have to
Like,
pay out money to get your merch to bring it
right,
on the tour. You have to pay your manager 15%. You got to pay your booking agent 15. You know what I mean? It gets
right,
pared down so fast, and
right,
now you're investing in the band. And what do you want to get? You want to get a sound guy to come with you, so you make yourself sound better. You got to pay the sound guy. You want to get a guitar tech, so that
right.
when your guitar,
Goes out of whack,
string
you can
break.
fix it. Yeah, yeah, and keep
Yeah,
going.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That-
You got a lighting guy. It's like you could always add. You're renting cooler lights.
right.
You're putting money into the show. You get a tour bus so you can be more well rested. Like I said.
Right, or take the whole production with you in one boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people are looking at me like, "What are you making? Like a couple $100,000 a year?" I'm like, no, with my mom, dude. Like that's what it's like.
Right.
That is it's tough. The music
Yeah,
industry
yeah.
is so tough, so tough.
And you guys kind of had an advantage with the dispatch position, right? Because now you got a guy who has like some note, as opposed to starting from the ground up.
It was like kind of. It was like 100%. It was like walking in the door with clout right away. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was like it was. I mean, as much as we're like, you're like, I'm only kind of going over that because I feel like that's just to put it in perspective for
Right.
people to know, like, this is how hard it is to make it in the music industry. This is how difficult it is to be like a
Also,
musician.
a strange perspective that should be in Perspectives Volume 2. But,
Yeah. But like everything that I did and like the experience, which I would never
right.
want to give back, and it was
Yeah.
totally worth it for me to do it for that amount of money, was I owe it to Chad. Like
Yeah.
he took a chance on me when I didn't have drum cases, like I said. I didn't know how to play reggae at all. The second time that I took reggae lessons for like, but it wasn't really. It was just a guy that he'd hired that had tried out for the band to do like 3 sessions with me. For about an hour to just show me how to do it the same way that like Evan Anderson, showed me how to do a cymbal choke. He's like, this is what you do.
Right. That's
So you,
I've heard that you guys would do vocal lessons together as a group.
we did that one time. We did that one time.
Okay.
But which was good. I think that was definitely more for me
Okay.
than for anybody else. 'Cause Chuck is a great singer.
Chuck is a great singer. You guys, I mean, together, like I've only heard the finished thing where it all sounds dope, and like there's the harmonies, and then there's your scream harmony, and like it's put all together. But
Right. Yeah. I'm like, you can use me. I'm like the B team, dude. I'm the JV, use me here and there with the things I'm strong at, but like, I definitely needed work. And he was basically like, and it kind of stemmed out from me, playing out with Ratfynkt and playing guitar and singing, and him like kind of hearing, what I was doing. And he'd be
Yeah.
like, I think that we can improve what you're doing.
That's awesome. That's cool
And
that he would even do that. You know what I mean? Most people be like, yeah, keep working on it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but to intervene like that, and like, because I remember seeing you do a solo thing at, I think it was at that 5K, the show that night. Like,
Oh yeah.
you did like an acoustic Ratfink set, and
Oh yeah. That was
'cause
fun.
that first populate that first record and the bar none one, all the harmonies and the song structures hold up. Like hanging out
I
with
appreciate
Chad clearly rubbed off because those songs, like I re-listened to everything this week
Oh
to
wow.
re-gauge myself because like I bought the one CD I think from that show from you maybe,
Oh nice. Yeah.
and like I'm like throughout like I had umpteen years whatever being like that's the guy on the kit, and you know what I mean, this is so much of like it's all the best of like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and like Pearl Jam kind of slammed into this cool unique blend, and
Yeah.
like
Total grunge fest.
but in a good way where it's like it's its own thing, and like I have a lot of respect for people who take their influences and wear them on their sleeve and do it in their
Right.
own way. You know what I mean? Because it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to say, "Oh no, it's just Kurt Who? No, I never
Yeah.
heard of that guy." Like and
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
like
Oh dude. Yeah. What like Greta Van Fleet or that band was like,
right.
yeah,
We don't,
we're not influenced by Led Zeppelin.
yeah, they're weird. I played in another band. I
It
played
sounded
bass.
exactly like them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I played bass with this band called Hamilton Handshake, and we opened up for Greta Van Fleet at the Grog Shop.
Oh really? That's
Right.
awesome.
Right. And it was, they were like, they were great. And I would talk to them a little bit. I'm like, yeah, what are you guys listening to? Because that band, I was like the one responsible guy. I showed up to the venue on time and like
Right.
brought all the
Yeah.
shit and like didn't drink, drove everyone home.
Of course you did, dude. That's your style, man. You're the glue.
Keeping the punk and punctual. Anyway, so
Right.
I got there and like I was shooting the shit with these kids, and like they're like, oh, what are you guys listening to? And they're like, they would say everything but Led Zeppelin. You know what I mean? They tried so hard to be like not. And then when they were playing, I'm like, what do you mean you listen to Charlie Parker? That is,
No.
which I'm sure they did. Don't give it. I'm not calling them a
Yeah.
liar, but
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Just like, I listened to Madonna when I
Right.
was, you know what I mean? Like I heard some Madonna songs. It's pretty cool, I
it's
mean,
great.
I'm not writing Madonna's. My writing's not as influenced by Madonna as Nirvana. Like, let's
Right.
be honest.
It's got a good rhyme to it though.
Yeah, Madonna.
That sounds like a good
Madonna.
quote for a cover band. Like, we do everything from Madonna to Nirvana.
Yeah,
What do you need?
What do you need, huh?
What do you need? But yeah, those records are so well organized, like song structure wise, and like where the harmonies come in, and like I imagine taking those vocal lessons and working with state radio that panned through, right?
Totally, 100%. Because those songs that when I first recorded them or first wrote them, they were much longer. They didn't have a structurally as many like things where this might cut in at this time or this went 3 rounds instead of 4.
Right.
All state radio stuff, and all from knowing, like I said, playing live and knowing that you have to hold someone's attention span realistically, like you need to do something maybe semi-interesting that they might not know that you did, but it might subconsciously, it's like, oh, that was kind of cool.
Right.
So much from Chad's writing and playing in that band, and as B level as I think, not C level, That's you. But like as like it, you know, as
Lower
D
tier,
level as
man. We're a
yeah,
lower
like,
tier. We're
or
working
D,
our way to get the B.
or D, I can be D level or F or whatever, just compared to Chad's songs and writing. Like it was that was as best as like I could kind of, you know, take from what he gave me,
Right.
you know, and put it forward. And I think like again, like back to, you know, what I got from that band, like I musically and just experience wise, I wouldn't have had any of that without Chad and without him, you know, giving me that chance. And you know, then observing how like a great songwriter writes his songs and what goes into the song. It's not like he's not just write it and be like, well, I'm great, so here it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's like, all right, I wrote this too. Now let's work on this song.
Right.
Let's make it really as good as it can be. And so he's putting his best foot forward in a lot of ways that way. And he's already at the, like, if you just listen to his song that he just wrote on the recorder, like acoustic, that's damn good already, you know?
Yeah. So, like, when he would have a song, how would he approach it to you? Like, would he be like, "What do you think?" and like play it for you, like recorder wise, or like live?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah, mostly live. Mostly like you get together for a rehearsal and be like, "I'm working on this tune. This is kind of how it goes."
okay,
And he's like, "This is what I'm thinking we're gonna do for a structure." He's like, "This is what I think maybe for kind of like what the beat is." And then he'd be like, "What do you guys think about it?" That's eventually where we got to, you know. When I first got there was a record already.
Right.
It was recorded. Us Against the Crown was already recorded. So I learned those songs the way they were in the record. And when he came to rehearse with me before I went on the road, he was like, okay, so like I just play like, you know, this song or Man in the Hall. I'm like, yeah, just play it. But then he'd start playing something. I'm like, that's not the structure on the record. He's like, oh, I didn't even remember what we played on the record. Like, this is how we're doing it live.
Yeah.
So like that song had morphed to a different song because it got a better reaction live. So it's like it didn't stop once the song was recorded either. It like morphed into a different structure eventually,
right,
to what was optimal for what the live show was at that time. So he was humble enough, you know, to be like, all right, well, let's change the song to make it like optimal for how we're playing right now. Which is, I mean, what a lesson to learn from a young musician, to be like, oh, like this guy's like he's not on his high horse over there.
Yeah.
Saying like, this is the greatest thing.
You got to do it my way. Learn the record. Yeah. Yeah. I change it. Just, you know, that's what I do. It's
yeah. And he's like, yeah, I write the set list on a paper plate for as we're supposed to be walking out to the stage, you know. I'm scribbling the set list on a napkin like 2 seconds before we're walking out.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was just like, that's kind of punk rock, I guess, in a way, you know, like that kind of
super punk. Like but it keeps it like, I don't know, it's like what Bob Dylan does, you know. All these great songwriters, they morph what you know. Oops, hold on, let me make sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's great. It was really cool to see that in action. And like you said, it definitely rubbed off on me for sure.
Yeah, clearly, because those Ratfynkt records hold up. Like listening back, and I was like,
oh, I appreciate that.
Put together well. And like even the Bar None record, right? I was like, wow,
yeah.
There's all this like acoustic percussion, and then like there's like the rock elements on top of it. I'm like, how does this work? But it does. like
yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah, right. That was more like it would have taken longer to record the actual drums.
Got
so
it.
Duramio was playing. That wasn't me playing percussion. That was Steve.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's my friend Steve Duramio. He was the drummer in Ratfynkt for those records. He's a good drummer, and he played like he started on hand drum, so he was more comfortable on hand drum too. And he would do like sometimes he'd do like 2 tracks of the drum. He'd do like a djembe track, and then he'd do like a bongos track over it. I'm like, dude, that sounds pretty cool. Let's do that.
It's late.
Keep it.
So
yeah.
The kind of morph into with Chuck. How did your guys' relationship develop from the initial, this guy doesn't have drum cases? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You guys eventually did the Remote Players Club, and those tunes are rad. Like, rest of my
Yeah.
time gets stuck in my head all the time.
Mm,
But like,
yeah.
so you guys developed this rhythm section brotherhood. It sounds like, and how you write about him in the book. So did it
Uh-huh.
was that click there from the rip? Like,
No,
okay. So how'd that
because,
come to be?
well, generally speaking, I'm kind of more, I can talk, man.
Yeah.
I'm kind of annoying sometimes if you're with me a long time. And Chuck is a little bit more quiet. So I think I had to shut up here and there to like kind of get to Chuck's speed. And I think that taught me, it made me a better listener. Because
Right.
when you're on the road with somebody 24/7, like if you talk a little bit too much, like it gets exponentially worse as time. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
every little fault that you have just comes out because you're in such tight quarters, living together. It's group living for just straight up, and this like you're not showering as often as you should. There's a lack of everything, right?
Right.
And that's all you got. So I think that like at first I think he found me pretty annoying. And plus I was kind of like I was so excited,
Right. I'm like, oh, the
and
new
he's like,
guy.
yeah, he's like, I don't know this guy. Still excited. He's pretty annoying. And eventually I think it was just like I remember Chad was like showing me, he's like, with Chuck, you might want to like think about like not like talking to him, like silence is okay. And we're telling him silence is okay with Chuck. It doesn't mean he doesn't like you. It doesn't mean that like things are going badly. If you're just, it's like I might be on drive with Chuck for like 3 hours and we might not say a word to each other.
Damn.
And I'm like, okay, all right. Like now, like I can do that, well, it's not easy for me, but, and eventually I think that like, he was like, okay, like Mike's not that bad. And then when he would come to town, Chad was always with Sybil and he would come chill with me, and, or stay at my mom's when I was living there. And then when I got an apartment, he was with me, and we just started developing a friendship. Cause he's awesome. I love Chuck, so I always wanted to be friends with him, but I think it took a little while for him to want to be
Gotcha.
friends with me. And then eventually, like, I think there's like, we have a love for Nirvana and those 90s grungy kind of bands. And that kind of played out in the tunes. Whereas like before, I think the old drummers they weren't it wasn't as raw. I don't think the drumming was as raw. So I think he kind of liked that energy.
Right.
Musically.
Well, that first album you recorded on Year the Crow, and compared to the record that came before it, it's heavy as fuck. Like,
Yeah, it was definitely heavier.
and but that's awesome because you guys, I mean, the Remote Players Club stuff. How'd that come about? Was that post?
It's a really funny story about. I don't know if I wrote this in strange perspectives. Probably not. But
Nope. This is volume 2.
We were playing at the
Right
at the 930 Club in DC.
Right.
Something like that, or maybe it was there. I don't know. But anyway, I went to take like a poo poo in the public toilet,
Yeah.
and I heard and there's two guys. The two dudes were taking a pee, and one of them was saying like, "Is State Radio opening for this band, or is this band opening for State Radio?" I think maybe it was Township or something that was playing. This great band. I love Township,
Yeah.
Boston band. And one of the guys goes, "I don't know, man. Maybe they're opening for them." Because You're the Crow is so much worse than Us Against the Crown that they're probably on their they're declining. They're like sounding like worse, and they're not drawing as many people because the record's so bad. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh man, like they hate my drumming.
Fuck.
It was fun. I mean, I wasn't really that offended, to tell you the truth, but I was like interesting because like maybe the style is a little bit different. And maybe the person didn't like the style,
Right. Well, clearly that seemed to be a personal opinion. Like, that record, as far as State Radio records, I go back to that one a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think that's like the deep cuts, because I think like if you look at the State Radio streaming, that Us Against the Crown still probably gets the
yeah.
most
No, it's
streaming.
definitely still up there. Like,
I think You're the Crow gets the least.
but
Oh man.
But I mean, what? Speaking of Nirvana, that's like that club's punk as fuck. The 930 Club. There's so
Oh,
many
it's
like amazing Bad Brains and Minor Threat videos and shit from that club.
the greatest.
Um,
That venue, like, knew they, you like get in there, they'd have pizza for you. You have
nice.
like like, you know, you'd have the room back, and like, I don't even know why I was in the public bathroom. I think someone was probably using the bathroom, and maybe like Sybil was taking a shower or something. I don't know what was going on, but
Yeah.
because they have a nice like bathroom and like shower at that place, you know, and a backstage and cool little place you can hang on the balcony to watch the opening bands. It's just
Oh, that's
such a great
sick.
venue.
Yeah. Because compared to like what the House of Blues, they don't have showers, do they?
I don't think so.
It's
No,
interesting that
that's which one it is. Yeah,
this little
yeah, I
punk
don't think
club,
so.
it's more
Yeah, I
catering
know.
than this chain that you should at least be dependent on for like having those type of
Shoot, it was
utilities.
just they know how to treat a band. Like you walk in there, and they're like, and they have like a full pizza for you. And they're like, yeah, just grab a slice if you want, or like some salad. And I'm like what? I just like
Whoa.
walked in here.
Right.
Like how much
Cool.
is it? And they're like, it's free, dude. Serious?
No.
Like wow, these guys are cool. And then you'd order dinner from them too.
Yeah. That's super sick, especially when you're working, when you're paying for your own food.
Yeah, so, I know, but that's the thing, right? You know, it's like again, it's like anything you can get at that point, you're very thankful for.
Right. The kind of I had a couple questions from stuff within the book to kind of shift the gears here.
Oh yeah, just yeah, remote players club. Like anyway, those are Chuck's tunes.
Oh,
To
okay,
answer your
okay,
question on that, those are Chuck's tunes. He was one of the times he was staying. He showed me a couple,
right.
and he had like it had like just stock drums on it, you know, that he had kind of programmed in. I'm like, you want me to play on these things? Without, you know, I kind of like interjected myself in there,
Yeah.
and we recorded it kind of remotely,
Oh,
and
okay. Because
he mixed it.
he's in like L.A., right?
He
Or
he was in L.A. Yeah, now he went to he's in Vegas now.
oh, okay,
He was
okay.
back in Philly for a little bit, but we've been remote for a while, and we're trying to get to revamp that project now.
Sick.
Actually,
That would be awesome. No shit.
yeah, that would
Yeah.
be cool.
Those tunes are good. That Halloween video you guys got,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
sick.
Chuck's a great songwriter, man. He's really great and great. He does all the mixing, and I mean, really like a lot of work for him,
Yeah. But
but he does a great job.
that yeah.
And that
No,
was Chuck's cousin who did that video. Actually, Chuck's cousin directed that video and made that video.
no shit.
Yeah, super
Okay,
talented
cool.
guy.
Yeah, no, that was a fun video. The arc and story of it. I don't know. Music videos are always like a whole nother thing. I don't know if it like if that song was necessarily about that, but that was like a sick driving like song and like they have this whole like zombie like like or vampire esque turn to it. It was cool.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like artistic freedom for Chuck's cousin to produce that one.
Right.
You know, so I think he was just like, I got this idea. Or Chuck's like, oh, just go for it. Let's go for it. And I mean, I wasn't in the video. He wasn't in the video. He kind of just made it for us. Um, because it's all, you know, things are so visual these days. You need
Right.
video with things,
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, it's so much of it's like multifaceted. You know what I mean? It's putting the record out's one thing, but now it's just
Yeah,
a thumbnail and some wave files. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's crazy the amount, but still that goes back to that investment thing you would be doing for the road show. Now you got to do it for the digital show, you know, before you even
that's the
hit the road.
right. I mean, unless you, it's insane, man. I don't know how people like. I mean, you really gotta want it. You really
Right.
gotta want it, especially with the how easy it is to record now.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
everyone has a band, and everyone's asking you to listen to their band, and you know,
Yeah. You're fighting for you're fighting for attention that there's, it's hard to gain it. It's hard to stick out from the mass of like, look at me's. Like,
yeah, yeah,
and just to even be able to do it and be successful in doing it, and that's what you do. You know what I mean? Even if it's in one spot, I think it says way more that you can persevere doing something you love, and it may not be to the tier of like your expectation of like hitting the road and road dogging it, like
yeah.
but to do it sustainably is just even is success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's just successful. If you're, I mean, I know, local musicians that just play, get like 4 or 5 gigs a week. Like that's really hard to do too.
right.
That's sustaining yourself. If you could sustain yourself via music, think about a guy like me. I had all the opportunity in the world, playing with Chad, and dude, I'm not doing music right now.
Right.
It's tough. It's very, very tough.
And there's a lot of like, what I've noticed as far as like playing out of town, as soon as you meet somebody, your chances to get that gig are way more likely. Like as soon as you know someone who books at a venue, or you go there and play once and they can gauge you, like, all right, you can come back on a Friday. You know what I mean? Like as soon as that happens, it's so much easier. So that to have all those opportunities like that, and still not be able to take off with it, like it's hard.
It's a slog,
Like slog. That's a good word.
Just
a good word for it.
Yeah, it is. It's a grind, man. It's a grind with anything. If you want to do anything, and you want to do it your way, it's or do you want, like you say, you want to do what you you want to have the freedom to do what you love. You got to grind it out.
Right.
But sometimes it's a job. It's still a job, It's still a job. And it's just like, it's difficult. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, right?
Yeah, you got the warning from before you started.
Dude,
you listened to the first AC/DC record.
Yeah, we got the warning, dude.
You got the warning.
Up, dude. You want to rock and roll. Dude. All right, man. Give me a question. I'm sorry. I drove you off. This is why Chuck took me a while to become friends with Chuck.
No, this is... I very much rather... I come up with questions and stuff, but I enjoy the conversation. You know what I mean? To me, this is more of what this is having this conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can list off a couple questions and zip through them, but like being able to have an actual conversation and share the essence that is you, that's to me the whole point of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
what the thing about Remote Players Club too is I had the Ratfynkt, but I also have solo music that I was recording on my own.
Yeah, the Mike, what'd you call it?
Mike Wick Stoked. Yeah, Mike Wick Stoked. Mike Wick Stoked. Yeah. The Chadwick Stokes had just released his Chadwick Stokes.
Right.
So Chuck knew that I knew how to record I had an electric drum kit and I knew how to record it into the thing. So he's like, just record the MIDI and send me MIDI and then I can put the sounds I want. So that helped me actually. The Mike Wick Stoked experience helped me be able to work remotely.
What did Chad say about that? Anything?
I didn't really say much. I just told him, I was like, dude, I'm gonna name my record Mike Wick Stokes. And I think he thought I was serious, or I don't know. He's just like, oh, really? That's funny. It's like, that's cool. It's funny. Because he put out a solo record, so that was,
Was that like a weird indicator of like state radio kind of slowing down when those solo records started coming around? Or the dispatch stuff started taking off? Or were you guys kind of preempting that?
I pretty much got the hint. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was one of those things where where you didn't want it to be the case, but there was state radio became, I think, a situation for him where he didn't have as much control as he wanted to have in state radio.
Right.
Because that band started as a band.
Right. It's a unit. It's not just one, it's not,
Right. And if he wanted to play in a band they didn't have that much control over, he would just play with dispatch because they made way more money.
Right.
So at the end of the day, state radio would kind of serve his purpose when he realized, he's like, I think it was just the way I saw it was state radio, he gave us freedoms in that band that maybe he necessarily did not want at the end of the day to let us have, but he couldn't really kind of go back in and restructure it because we probably were like, well, nah, that's not the band, that's not the way it was. So he started his own thing where he was he owned the drum set and you play these notes the way I want you to play them, because like, you know, he was the leader. It was him. It was his name. Right. And Dispatch, he's like, well, if I'm going to be in a band that's, you know, that we're slogging it out, might as well go back to Dispatch and make some bank.
Right.
You know, he's got kids now at that point. He's like, you know, well, he wants to buy a house and stuff. And it's like, well, it's kind of an easy payday, you know, at the end of the day. And then he goes back to Dispatch and says, Chad's ready to play in Dispatch now. But Chad's the only one who's successful outside of Dispatch.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, I'm being honest.
Yeah, no. Because like when you look at the other guys, is like State Radio did more than, like, you guys were opening for Dave Matthews Band, and I got some questions about all these like cool opening spots you guys got compared to like what the other guys were doing, because they were kind of staying local, and like I don't know, that it takes the madness of diving into it that full-heartedly to get to that point, you know, in the endless hustle, just like you were describing, and like the accepting that it's not going to bring in this much, is going to, you know, it feeds itself to keep going.
Like Chad could survive without Dispatch at that point.
Yeah.
And if Dispatch guys, like, you know, those other guys go play a show, and there's no one really showing up to see them play. I mean, they're not getting like big crowds, whereas like State Radio is starting to get some pretty decent sized crowds.
Right.
And we were over in Germany, you know, getting decent sized crowds, you know, like we were there before Dispatch really kind of went over there, and making waves over there. And he kind of come back into that situation. He's like, you know, guys, come on, you know where your bread's buttered a little bit.
Right.
I'm sure he gets a you know, a little bit of makes a better situation for himself over there on his own coattails, which State Radio was his, you know, so his own coattails, but you know, from the work that we'd all put in. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of a bummer when you're like, oh, look at him over there now. He's, you know, playing all these huge venues. I'm sure he's got a more cushy situation within that band because of our success, you know, and now I'm sitting here with my thumb on my butt. You know, so it wasn't like there was great morale at that point, you know, and again, like me being like annoying and having to express my feelings and opinions, I'm over there to, you know, I'm not quiet about it. You know, I'm not backing down, like being like, oh, well, I don't want to upset Chad.
Yeah. I'm
like, whatever, dude, this is a bunch of crap.
Right.
You know,
well,
it's a bunch of crap.
As much as your hustle as it is theirs at that point, you know, and just to kind of go in and out with it and be like, okay, cool, I guess that's it. You know what I mean? That
right.
Sense. You know what I mean? You don't hustle for that long without being like, what?
Yeah, I mean, the really thing that kind of got that really, like, because there's obviously tension in bands, and there's a bunch of stuff. You know, the money situation was not great.
Right.
You know, we weren't living like high off the hog. Obviously, we weren't making a lot. I wasn't making a lot of money.
Right.
But when Dispatch kind of came back, and there was one of the last tours in the fall of 2012, they came to us and they were like, you know, this is what we're going to pay you for this tour, and the pay was lower. I was like, guy. Yeah, I was like, come on. Like, that's, and then they just go, this is where we're at with you guys. This is where we're at with you. And like, you know, State Radio we don't think State Radio is going to make as much money because, you know, we haven't played as much. And I'm like, but, you know, you're over here making money doing this, or you're starting this project, but, you know, like this is like kind of acing us out kind of thing, you know? And, it just kind of sucks, but Chad wouldn't really talk with it. He'd more defer to management, you know, like I think he maybe discussed with management, and then management would talk to us. So we kind of had this thing where this weird like dynamic where we'd be on the road with each other, like group living like in each other's faces.
Right.
But like I wasn't allowed to approach Chad and talk to him about this because like he'd be like, that's management's job. Like we're here to play.
Right.
And I don't want to get that in the middle of like our show and like what we're putting out as a unit on this tour. We don't want to screw up our product. You know what I mean? So like that's off limits.
Right.
So I'd be like, you know, I'd be like fighting with management, but like not like even communicating with Chad at all. I wouldn't even be on the phone calls or like
Huh.
at the meetings, you know. So it was
Right.
like a weird dynamic,
That is
and then,
super
yeah,
weird. That is super
super
weird.
weird. And again, like I'm more than willing to admit, like anything that I experienced and like achieved in music was because of Chad.
Yeah.
And they would say that to me, and I'd be like, yeah, that's great, but like that's not going to help me like eat, you know, or like get ahead or not be in credit card debt.
Right.
Like living in Boston or living on my own, like that's just not helping me. But like yeah, that's true. You know, that's true. At the time, it didn't feel as true because like I felt like I had helped him, you know, bring this band up to a certain level, which allowed him to like further his own career.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, like what I did for him was way less than what he did for me. You know, like musically. Like
Yeah.
just be honest, I'm not
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
idiot.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I'm not.
when you're looking at that perspective of it, you know what I mean? In which I guess you have to kind of like rationalize it, like because it seems like that's super. That's in a weird way. That's kind of cool that all the management stuff was kept to a different person. You know what I mean? Even though it was all one thing. So like the focus would be just doing the gig and like trying to keep that family vibe, you know what I mean, that we're here to do
Yeah,
this thing and like that's someone you know, instead of but at the same time like knowing that it's all connected and there's this weird unspoken thing is almost like I don't know if that was better or worse emotionally, you know what I mean? I can't imagine it was one or the other.
yeah. Who knows? You know,
Right.
like I don't know. I've never toured with any other bands before, but in the music industry again, it goes back to the music industry. You know, like you
Yeah.
have a band who's on the rise, and it's like those are the challenges. You know, they're facing, and it's just it's not easy. It's not like a cushy existence. Like people
No.
just assumed I was just like, oh, you're on tour bus, you're making a ton of money. What do you know? Like, what do you have? Like hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, a nice house, like a hot chick. I'm like, dude, I live with my mom. I got no money. You know, like I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I don't know what you think I'm doing, dude. But I'm playing in front of 5,000 people. You know?
Right. Playing
Making
sick
200.
gigs, but
Yeah, playing sick gigs, and the crazy thing was like our pay was equal for no matter what show it was. So I played like the Bank of America Pavilion in
damn.
Boston.
Wait,
I get paid
the John
like a
Butler
hundred.
one?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get
that
paid.
gig was epic.
Yeah, I think I got paid like $200 maybe for that one. You know, but I
Fuck.
play in but I play in Montana with no cut of merch, no
Right,
cut,
right,
not
right.
even like just like that was the pay,
Yeah.
$200.
Damn.
I mean, you know what I mean? So you're like, people are like, whoa, did you just make like thousands of dollars tonight? Like, no, I made $200
Fuck.
before tax,
Right, right.
pre-tax,
Damn.
pre-tax, $200. But then you play in Montana for like 10 people, and they're like, well, you just made $200. You know?
Well, cool. Fuck.
But
Wow.
it's crazy, man.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
is so crazy because that gig was like a huge gig. And you
dude,
guys shifted from the Butler, John Butler went opened for you guys at that gig.
yeah.
And like
Okay, yeah,
that gig always blew my mind because at one point G Love comes on and jams with you guys. I'm like, what the fuck is
yeah,
going on here? This is like
yeah,
a huge, like, because I remember a couple gigs before it was a much smaller venue. You know what I mean? Not in the same town.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
like, that's
yeah.
bonkers and horrifying.
It's crazy, dude.
Right.
We were playing at Terminal 5 one time,
Yeah.
and our manager started managing this band called the Hornets,
I don't remember. I don't
and
know them now, but
and
okay.
the Hornets like played with us at a Boston gig,
Yeah.
and then there's another group that played with us. I don't know, maybe it's the guys from John Brown's Body or something in New York,
Oh,
at
okay.
Terminal 5, New York. And like I remember Chad like kind of telling me, complaining to me, he's like, I had to pay those guys $300 to like just play the whatever 5 songs we played with them, or 3. I don't even know how many it was.
Right.
I'm like, God damn it! I mean, like they made 1.5 times as much as me. Like you know, you're like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Like you have that kind of money to pay those freaking horn players? You know what I mean? Like those are the discussions. So when I get like a pay cut,
Right.
2012, and I'm on the phone. And I'm telling me, I'm like, you're freaking paying your damn band, the Hornets, $300 to play 5 songs when they've never rehearsed with us. They don't even add anything to the band because like that's the way I talk to them. You know what I mean? Like I was young and I'm kind of an idiot, So like I would just be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like you now you're gonna cut my pay. You couldn't even pay me as much as the freaking Hornets. and we'd be talking, man, and be like the manager and like the accountant for like state radio. And like one time I made more than one time. I made like people cry, because I was like, this makes no freaking sense. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. But I'm like, I can't talk to Chad about it, So like, I'm just like, it's all bottled up from however long it's been going on.
And it just
and
explodes on whoever.
You're shooting the messenger.
Right.
But it's like a horrible, it was like getting to, so when that dynamic was playing out, he's like, was the writing on the wall? Yeah, the writing was on the wall because like now Chad's having like experiencing these like issues within state radio as a band. He's like,
okay,
well, I don't need this band because I can play with a band that I already have problems with and make 10 times the amount of money. Why don't I do that? Why don't I go in and negotiate a nice deal over there and write all the tunes? Because now he writes all the tunes,
right?
Because he wrote the general. And obviously it just became clear it was him. He's the one who was dispatch.
Right. Well, so much of that. Well, and that's one dude dropped out, right? And they're still rolling pretty high. And like you listen to the records and like it's like that. Well, that could have been a state radio tune, or that's like totally a solo tune. You hear like the out of the 9 songs, you hear the 7 that are Chad and the 3 that are
and now there's 0 that are other people because that he's better at writing.
Right. Well, when someone's got all the stuff there and it's time to make a record, what are you going to do? Be like, well, give me a couple months. No, you're going to go with what's there. That makes sense. And if
we're going to use the people's songs that can't draw any fans,
right?
To put our foot forward for dispatch, or should we use the guy's songs who draws fans?
Right.
Let me think about this one for a second. This is a hard decision,
Right.
And I'm sure those guys like resisted it too. Like, but at the end of the day, like, dude, I mean, like, I'm a realist, and I know, that, but it got pretty rough in our band, and and eventually he's probably like, well, I don't want to start I want to get a situation where like I'm in control, so that it's Chadwick Stokes,
right?
Like this, like state radio was like presented as a band. He shouldn't have presented as a band if it wasn't supposed to be. So he's like, all right, I'm going to present my own solo project, and everyone knows it's me. That's it. Like I'm the boss, I'm the man. I can kind of do my thing.
Yeah. But then,
if I want to play in a band, I'll play with these jamokes over here instead of these jamokes because like I make way more freaking money with these guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like when you're
the guy, you can't get mad at him for it.
Right. But I bet that that had to like, I don't know. That sounds like a really like tough, toxic kind of situation. Fuck.
It was, and what? To be honest with you, it kind of like it definitely like severed that that relationship into a place that's not that. I don't know if it's like a recoverable, situation. Yeah, I don't know if you'd ever see state radio play again because of that.
Right. Well,
and I think. Yeah.
No, I don't mean to cut you off. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say like for me, someone who's out of I'm not a musician for a living right now. Like I think I'm more open and because. I do realize where he's coming from. I'm not I'm not an idiot, like I said. I'm a pretty reasonable person. When at the end of the day, I feel like I'm pretty reasonable. But at the time, when you're like putting everything into something and you get not much out of it, and you see someone else like taking different steps to like get out of it what they need out of it, it upsets you. I mean, that's just natural, right? So I mean, I'd be open to moving forward and doing stuff, but I honestly don't know if he would be. I think that he would probably be he'd probably resist that because he's still in the industry. I bet I bet it feels so much more fresh to him, like so much more like he's still doing the same thing.
Right.
Like it's like it would mean something different to him than it would to me.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it would be more like you're doing a one-off kind of thing, or like just kind of putting it out there, and like it's not something that I need for money or like my career. It's like kind of just like it's like the cover band or state radio at this point. It's like the same thing to me.
Right.
Whereas to him, it would be like, it's like, it's a move that would be like, okay, this is like his career. Why is he doing that? You know what I mean? It's something different.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But it also makes sense with like how how successful he's doing with that. So you have to analyze it on that, like, that tier of a thing, like, which is way more like business oriented than it seems, if that makes sense. Like,
Right. Totally.
but that also, like, kind of like, when it's not that way, it's easier to look over those difficulties, where if it is, it's a lot more arduous to kind of like see those challenges ahead.
Yeah. And what does that even mean for him? Like he's doing fine musically now. He doesn't need to play with state radio. I mean, there's no reason for him to need to do that.
Right.
Except
to make fucking some rad records. I mean,
well, yeah,
shit.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So, like, right. I mean, I feel as though the style of drumming that maybe I bring to the table is slightly different than what he's experiencing now, right?
Right. Well, that like the floor tom racked up, mounted, you know what I mean, fucking heavy as shit, like.
Right.
But it's musically, like, I went back and listened to some of the, like, I listened to Let It Go earlier this week to kind of gauge where, like, when I first met you, what you were doing, and like that record also fucking kicks too, like, that first tune, Manson Humanity, like,
oh wow, yeah,
that's a heavy fucking tune, like,
it is pretty big tune.
And like the guitar riffs, even, I'm like, those are fucking, that's sick.
Yeah,
I forgot
cool.
how dope some of these, like, fucking, you get caught up in some of the songs that, like, have the hook and it gets stuck in your head. But listening back, I'm like, all these little intricacies, and I'm like, fuck, this is heavy. You know what I mean? And like,
it's a different show. Yeah, it's a little different than
like
this best play.
Right. Well, and even like looking at like the people who state radio like ended up touring with and opening for was way more like heavier than like who opens for Spatch. I don't know, like another type of jam band. Like right. Maybe the coolest one would be like John Butler or something, but like you guys went on that, like you played with Tom Morello and shit, and like
right, fucking, yeah.
Like on a brighter note, how dope was Tom Morello kicking it with your family?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that the other day.
Yeah, so like
my friend Mark.
What exactly happened? Not to like deteriorate. I'll put a pin in this to come back to it. But like, how did it go from like hitting the road with like Tom Morello?
It was crazy, dude. The way that we got that gig was apparently he called up our manager out of the blue because he was watching this station that like you'd vote for a song. They'd have like 3 bands or something. You could vote for a song, and then whatever got the most votes would be played. This is what he described to us. And the state radio Gang of Thieves
right
kind of came on, and he listened to it, and he was like, can I dig this jam? And he said he would like walk his dog to the song.
Sick.
and so when he started wanting to do he looked up the band and saw that the band was into, like charitable stuff. What he wanted to do was wanted to do the Justice Tour, right? Where he did a charity project one day and then the show another day, like 2 days.
Right.
Which is kind of the format and where we kind of got where Calling All Crows format came from.
Right.
Was like doing the service project, but we'd have to do it the same day because it's so expensive to like, be on the road and be idle for a day.
Right.
So we would do it like the same day as the show.
Right.
But that's kind of where it was born out of. And he called our manager and he's like, hey, this is Tom Morello. And the guy's like, yeah, okay, who is this? Like, are you messing? He's like, Mark, are you messing with me? Or like, he's like saying people's name, like other managers, are you messing with me? He's like, no, this is Tom Morello. And he's like, okay, I guess so. What do you want, Tom Morello? And Tom Morello's like, I'm starting doing this tour. I want you guys to do it. and there was like 7 shows. And I think we ended up doing 3 of them.
Damn.
One of them was the Boston show. One of them was New Orleans, maybe.
Okay.
Is that right?
I think
in L.A.
Okay.
I think it was New Orleans,
okay.
right? Yeah, because we saw a New Orleans Hornets game.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Morello bought all of us tickets to the game.
Sick.
We went to dinner. Dude, this is crazy. We went to dinner in New Orleans, and the owner of the restaurant came over. He goes, "We want to just tell you like that your meal is free tonight."
Woo!
And I was like, "Damn, dude, I'm a rock star now." Like that shit never happens, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, it was crazy. But we gave him like a tip, you know. We gave him like we probably paid like, you know, it's like put in like $40 or something just to be like cool, you know, to give him like each $40 to give him like the, essentially you don't want to like be like, yeah, thanks, we're gonna eat all your food and leave you with nothing.
Right, but, especially the servers. That's how they're getting paid. So at least, you know, that's badass.
Yeah. So give him like, you know, he was cool like that, where he's like, all right, you know, it's free, but we gotta pay. You know what I mean? Like he knew he's not like not like it's just like
aware of it. That's
he's not completely self-centered and awful. But yeah, he was super cool. He was a super nice guy, and we played in I think Berkeley theater.
Yeah.
Boston, where the Berkeley kids play, and then afterwards I was like walking out, and he was there, and he's like you're Mike's mom, whatever. He's like, you've raised a fine drummer, and my mom was like, she's like so psyched that he said that
for the years of the band practice.
yeah, pretty much, man. So like we went out and we were like hanging with Morello, and the reason why I actually remember me and my friend Marty always talk about this night was because there was a guy who was like an aspiring comedian. He was actually the son of a comedian who was actually pretty well known. I forget the guy's name now. I wish Marty would be able to tell me. But he was like trying to make jokes to Breckin Meyer, the guy who was in like Road Trip.
Right.
And that's like one of my favorite movies ever too. Breckin Meyer is a drummer as well.
Oh no shit.
So we would like talk and hang just because we were drummers, and I was like, I like eventually told him like, dude, like I love your freaking movies, man. Like I didn't want to be like too lame, you know, at first. I kind of held it in, but I eventually told him that I loved him. But he was like, Marty's friend was like making these jokes, and like it was just so offensive that Breckin Meyer like he left the bar. Yeah, like he was just like he was just annoying him so much with his like bad joke telling stuff. It was like not the time to be telling jokes. So we always talk about that night more for like that. I was like, whatever happened to that guy who was like made Breckin Meyer leave the bar? He was telling such bad jokes. But like, yeah, Morello was like, we were in L.A. Chad wrote a song about that night in L.A.
Right, because I remember you telling me. I remember us being on the bus at one point, and we were jamming. I think we were jamming "Rockin' in the Free World," and you told me the story about how you taught the Slash. So,
yes,
if you want to, for the listeners, like reiterate that in your own words, because you'll do a much better job at it. But that's the L.A. date, right?
That was the L.A. gig. So I was standing backstage in L.A. and Slash comes up to me like right before he's going on stage, and he goes, "How do you play Rockin' in the Free World again?" And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, first of all, like I didn't ever met this guy. Like, I didn't even said hi to him at that point. I think he thought I was that musician Pete Yorn.
Oh, okay. No shit.
You know, because he has like dark hair.
Right.
You know,
was he? And he was on the tour too.
He was there. Yeah, he was there in L.A. I don't know if he was there in New Orleans or Boston. I don't remember. He might have been. I don't know. That's the question. But yeah, he was there in L.A. And I think he did teach Slash. This is me trying to put it together afterwards. Right. He did teach Slash how to play Rockin' in the Free World. But randomly, because of Ratfynkt, like that was one of the only covers I knew how to play. So it was like EDC, it's EDC.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And he looks at me and like kind of like like what, you know? And I'm like E-E-E-E-E-E-E-D-D-C. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's right, man. Cool. All right. And then he like walks away. And then basically walks to the stage. And I'm like sitting there like, what just happened? And then I hear like, you know, because on the backstage I walk out and I hear Slash freaking ripping solos over Rockin' the Free World. And I'm like, did I just teach Slash how to play Rockin' in the Free World? Did I just do that?
They learn so fast. I don't know.
Yeah, that has to be on my resume. And I think I actually told them the chorus maybe too. I don't remember that part. I might just be saying that right now to make myself sound cooler that I taught them the whole song. But I know the EDC part.
Right.
And I don't think I said the chorus maybe. But I did teach him Rockin' in the Free World.
There you go. The part that sticks out, the verse.
And that was the only contact I had with him that night.
Damn, just the setting of that night sounds bonkers. And that song that I'm sure you've heard it, Chad's song about it, like it makes that night more epic. 'Cause I remember you telling me that story, and then that song came out. I'm like, oh no shit, I remember hearing this, and this is like, it actually did happen. This is so cool. Like this.
Yeah. So another funny thing was Jerry Cantrell.
Right.
Alice in Chains. So he was playing a tune. Backstage, he was rehearsing, teaching this other guy the guitar. This guy Dave something was playing guitar for him. Anyway, and so Chad was humming along this harmony.
Right.
And I think it was that song. It's like, you were always so far away.
Yeah.
Is that Nutshell or something?
I think so.
I know that pain. Whatever it was. He was singing it, and Chad was doing this crazy cool harmony like Chad does, like under his breath, but like, you know, Cantrell Cantrell's like amazing musical ears, like hones in on this harmony.
Right.
He's like, he stops playing. He goes, who's doing that harmony? And Chad kind of like raises his hand like he's in like third grade, you know. and he's like, he's like, come over here. Do that harmony, you know, just try that harmony. Maybe you can sing on stage. And Chad points to me and goes, Mad Dog was singing too. And I'm like, no, that wasn't really. He's like, yeah, you were Mad Dog. Come on. I'm like, I don't know. I was already kind of sitting closer to Cantrell, and Chad comes over and sits next to me on the other side. Right.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not good. This is not good for us. It's not good for us because I wasn't singing, first of all.
Right.
Picking harmonies out of my butt is not my forte.
Harmonies are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially what Chad was doing, dude. It was crazy. I don't even know, like, you know, like first, thirds, fifths. Like he was probably doing second because like Alice in Chains did a lot of seconds, he told me, or fourths or whatever the hell they did. I don't even know. But he was doing something that was awesome, and it sounded really cool. And he started playing it, and Chad started doing it, and I was trying to like pretend like I was singing, but I wasn't, and it just didn't happen.
Damn.
And then it got to the chorus, and I forgot that was the part because Cantrell's part's so different.
Right.
You know, like the crazy thing about Alice in Chains is like I don't even know how they keep straight what they're supposed to sing.
Right. Right.
Because like my voice ends up when I try to sing along with them, sometimes it kind of goes in the middle of what they're doing because what they're doing is so different.
Yeah, it's like this weird wall of like if it's a fourth or a second, that makes sense, right? Like a fourth is kind of like this like penetrable, like it's not major, it's not minor, just fulfills that thing, and you layer that. But a second, right? Second's pretty dissonant. Like a second's like a really small interval, but that could be it too. I've never really picked it apart. I'd have to really like. I kind of with harmonies like once in my brain when I hear three or more or one's doubled or something, I lose what I'm listening to. I have to really like play it to be like, oh, there's the fourth, there's the second, like on a piano or something. Like so when I listen to like even like with the state radio records at one point when you guys would layer up, like I guess to kind of circle back when Adeline was recorded, there's so many harmonies on that, like who's doing what, and like I kind of lose my sense of what is the harmony. Now it's just kind of everything in a good way, you know what I mean? Like but that is the Alice in Chains thing, you know what I mean? Like that space they create, and if it is a second or a fourth, it's uniquely plastered, and like how you're saying, it doesn't diverge from the melody. Like, so I
Yeah,
can
it's
see how
crazy.
you get so lost in it, especially just like the nerves. This is a band like
Oh,
you
dude,
grew up
I'm
with.
sitting between like two like the greatest singers of all time, trying to like keep up. When I have no idea, I don't even know like how the song is going at that point because like Cantrell's singing something, and I don't even know what. Like I know, I realized I knew the song like after he left. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my god, that was Nutshell. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, whoa, like I just got played over. Like I just it was one of those things where like it sounds to the ear so pleasing and so easy to say, and when you start to try to vocalize it, you're like, uh-oh, like I'm in
Right.
no man's land. I'm not there. It's not me. So he eventually stopped and like it was like, okay, like maybe you guys can do that like pretty far from the microphone or something. And then I come clean at that point. I'm like, listen, like I'm a drummer, like Chad could definitely do the harmonies, you know, like if you want, I could maybe put like a hand drum or like tap on the drums or something. And Cantrell's like kind of like been turned off though by this
Yeah.
point by me. So like he's like yeah, he's like maybe you could kind of again maybe you could kind of do the harmony like way back off the mic. And he's like, and he was to me, he's like maybe you could like play air drums or something. And I was like,
Ouch.
oh, damn, like
Fuck.
that hurts.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I know it was great. It was like, but it felt so right though because like
Right.
I was really like I was just like in between, like I was like way out of my league
Yeah.
with trying to do the vocals, so he probably did not trust that I was going
Right.
to be able to play the drums.
Right. Right. Well, and I imagine that tour was like a clusterfuck of people. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
because there's
yeah,
some big names, and whoever Tom's bringing on, there's probably all these people they don't know, and like, but like to be in that room and be all those legends and shit, that
yeah,
had to be fucking sick, and like,
yes, yeah.
damn,
It was
and
crazy. Yeah, and the Cantrell later actually was I asked him because I was again when I found myself a moment with him alone and I wanted to redeem myself
right,
to like just have a normal conversation with the guy
yeah,
after I screwed things up for Chad. But I who knows where that would have went with Chad. Chad probably would have been banned with Jerry Cantrell if I was just sitting between them. And so the Cantrell, Sean Kinney was there, the drummer for Alice in Chains, and I was like, why isn't Sean playing? He's like, Sean, he's probably happy enough watching Stuart Copeland play,
damn,
And
yeah,
I was like, yeah, but Stuart Copeland, like he's so on top of the beat, and like Kinney, he's so on the back of the beat, such a different feel, and Jerry looks at me, he's like, you know what? He's like, you're so right, and I was like, yeah,
redeemed.
I was like, yes, I am, Jerry. See,
Play
see,
that air drum, homie.
yeah, I'm not that incompetent, Jerry. Jesus. Yeah. But that would have been so cool if like Chad would have, if I wasn't in the middle, it was just a wrong place, the wrong time for me.
Right.
And like we would have been on stage singing with Cantrell, and if I could have crowbarred my way in there off of Chad's coattails of singing so well, maybe I could have played a little drums for him.
Right, right. That has to be, especially for like, I don't know, someone of their level to like just bring people up, has to be like a weird, that can't be too comforting, not like everyone's like. That's why I'm really thankful for Chad bringing me up to play with you guys. Or if you see any, like Dave
Right.
Grohl does that all the fucking time, just brings people
Yeah.
up because that's a lot of money put into this moment, and a lot of people's expectations are being held, So to bring someone up like that has to be like a risky move, like
Yeah.
So that makes sense why he might have been a little apprehensive about it.
Of course. Like he made the right decision, but I was in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like it was just like I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like Chad would have made that song so much better if he did the harmony that he was humming
right.
below Cantrell from the other side.
Yeah.
But like because I was already sitting near Cantrell and he sat on the other side, and I actually like tried to switch with him, and he's like no, it's cool, man. Like because Chad's like super cool and like nice
Right.
about stuff like that.
Right.
Like he's like he doesn't want to come across like he's arrogant like that, because I really don't think he is.
Yeah.
he's like, well, Jerry's your hero too, too,
Right.
like I want to give you this shot. And I'm like, and it was just like, dude, like it's going to screw this up. Like, I'll try, but like, yeah, no, I screwed it up, man.
But
I blew it.
still an epic thing that happened, man. It's so fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. It's a
Even
great
though it didn't take
yeah.
off, it's still fucking sick.
It might even be better. It might be better that it happened that way instead of like I played with Cantrell once. It was like, no, dude, I got told to air drum.
Right. But then redeemed it. And was it who got locked out? Didn't the drummer
A Rage.
Rage, that's right. So that actually happened. He actually got locked out of the gig. It wasn't just like
Yeah, it wouldn't let him in.
shit.
You didn't have like I remember Tom being like, oh, so they're not letting Brad Wilk in. Like they're not letting Brad Wilk in. He's like, I gotta fix the situation, but like he couldn't. So he'd already left.
Fuck. He was like, all right, well, I'll just dip. Tom's got it. What the fuck?
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
Damn.
he probably just was like annoyed. He's probably like, whatever, screw this.
Right. Well, that had to be a madhouse, like with all those people.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
there.
Flea was there.
Whoa.
I tried to make like peer pressure Flea into doing a shot of like whiskey or something. He's like recovering alcoholic.
And he didn't do it?
No, he didn't. And then eventually people are like kind of like, dude, he's a recovery. I'm like, oh shoot. Yeah, I didn't like, I didn't think of that. You know what I mean? Like I was just so excited to hang with him. And he's like, I can get up early tomorrow. It's like, he's so sweet. He's like the nicest,
super nice
world.
Dude.
He's like the nicest guy in the world. And I'm like the a-holest, like 28 years old, whatever, trying to get him to take a shot with me, buddy up with me. And he was just so diplomatic about it. He was just like, no, it's cool, man. Like eventually, like, I'm like, I did not make him do it.
Right. But did you guys get to kick it a minute? Did you get some like Flea facts, like some amazing, like that dude? You hear any of those Chili Pepper guys talk? They riddle off like they can be talking about nothing and it sounds beautiful. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, he was, and Navarro was there too. Actually,
oh, shit.
Super sweet as well.
Yeah.
And like when I say like sweet, like I really mean like they're like sweet guys. Like they're like really nice guys, like very like gentle beings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like their presence was very gentle and like reassuring, like nurturing or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't it wasn't like at all coming in like big rock star vibe. It was just totally warm, welcoming guys. And maybe that's why I felt like it was okay to try to get him to take a shot with me, but it was cool at all. But
Dave Navarro didn't like judge your tattoos.
Yeah, I know, dude. Dave Navarro, man, he's cool.
Yeah.
He's such a great player.
Was it what a bonkers ass night? But that's like, that song, like that. I think that out of that whole record, the last one or whatever Chad came out with, that's like that's the jam on it.
Oh, it's a great song. Yeah, it's a great song. But Chad is like is the other thing he has in his songwriting is storytelling. Right. No, he's like such a great storyteller.
And like just the play on the words, like there was something about Alice being wrapped up in chains and like or no, Alice being wrapped chains and Jane's addiction. I can't remember the exact, but it was a really cool wordplay on the people that were there in a way that's not just like name dropping. You know what I mean? But in like a cool story twist. Like
he would, when we recorded Year of the Crow, I remember. I know he did this with the other ones, but we were in England at just recording with Chad Blake at Peter Gabriel's studio.
Damn,
which was out of control, right? I mean, this is like the first record I'm recording. They actually wanted to hire another drummer to play the reggae stuff,
right?
Because they didn't think I'd handle it. And when Chad Blake heard me play, he's like, "What are you talking about? Like this I can play. What did you?" He's like, "I thought you were." Because I asked about tuning drums. They also said like Mike's not very good at tuning his drums,
right?
And Chad Blake's like told me like later, he's like, "Why are they talking about tuning drums? I just want to know if you could play the drums. I don't give a crap if you can tune your own drums."
Right.
He was like, the impression that they gave you were like you're pretty almost like incompetent at drumming. And when you started playing, I was like very happy to hear what they're playing. So I was like, yes, Chad Blake thinks I'm good. But yeah, we were there, and he was up like every night, man. Like going over there, like just like lamenting over every lyric he was putting in there, like writing them, rewriting them. Like just the final product of the lyrics was like,
Right.
he was going nuts, man. I'd never seen it. I mean, he was up till 3 or 4 in the morning, like writing lyrics after we'd been recording all day. He takes them very seriously, and but it shows. I mean, that's a huge strength of his.
Definitely. Was that before? That was like when they were recorded, and then reviewing them to re-record them, or was that just when like the main tracks were recorded?
The main tracks were being recorded. Like he was like rewriting lyrics at the last second. Like he was like to make them like as good as they could be.
Right.
You know, he's already if you hang on, he's quite a wordsmith, and his vocabulary is very, very strong.
Right.
But he was like really, really like lamenting over like every single word that was written, and like what story he wanted to tell, like what he like how the wordplay stuff. And some of the stuff came out significantly different than the way we were playing. Yeah. With the work he had in there.
What, any song in particular that really like shifted from pre-recording to post?
Felt good about him, man. I mean, CIA, he added some things in there. I don't know. It's hard to remember, like which one's which. But like, that was so long ago. I have like one in my brain. I can't even figure out which one it is at this point. But he was like, I remember coming into his room at one point, like walking by.
Yeah.
3 in the morning because I was still awake, and I'm like, dude, you're still awake?
Yeah.
He's got his notebook and everything's crossed out. And I'm like, what are you doing now? He's like, I'm rewriting the lyrics. Like, rewriting the lyrics? We've been touring on these songs for months. You're rewriting the lyrics now? You're recording it tomorrow at 9 a.m. rewriting the lyrics. I think they can be better.
Damn. That's amazing.
You know?
Yeah, but that
work
ethic.
Amazing.
Yeah. I imagine like something like Wicker Plain. That was on that one, right? There's a lot. That's a story.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that one changed a lot though from the beginning.
Yeah, that's because that even in that one, like everything fits, and it fits in like the most like Chad way, and like hits and it's in the pocket. But I can't imagine it started like that.
No, dude, every single word. I'm sure it's like it was planned out. It's just
was it like
masterful?
Was it like that with the following few records? Or did you notice like they came more ready or something?
I don't think so. We recorded them in Boston though, so I didn't.
So you weren't seeing?
I didn't see him at 3 in the morning doing it, but I'm positive he did it.
Damn.
That's
cool. That's pretty cool.
Because a lot of times like he's taking the track and like you don't even get to hear the lyrics till
post. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not like trying. I don't know. Yeah, he would do some of them. He would do on his own, because the vocals you do last.
Right. Yeah, and you necessarily don't have to be there for that. Once your tracks are down, watching someone try to nail a harmony for a couple hours is as exciting as not. You know what I mean? Like,
actually, when Chad with Chad Blake, dude, we recorded in Gabriel's studio for all the instruments, and then we ended up going to record in up where Chad Blake had a spot for like the vocals.
Right.
And I was there for the first or second day, and he had this bench press, and I was doing it, and I somehow was putting it back down and missed the thing, and the weight slid off on one side and slammed on the ground. It was like a little loft I was in.
Yeah.
And the other side had the weight on it, so it that went down to the ground, and the side with the weight not on it went flying out of my hand and almost pranked one of his amps and guitars.
Oh shit.
And I was like, holy shit. Yeah, holy shit.
Why is this here?
He's like, what was that? I was they're down recording, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be here the whole time they're recording vocals. He'll go wait outside. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just kind of pop in, But because we were in England, so I didn't fly home. But
right.
dude, I mean, that could have been
That could have been bad.
catastrophic.
That would
Like
have
I could
been
have.
more than some drum cases.
Yeah, yeah. I think he had this like Dan Electro guitar that I guess was this
Those are
really cheap.
old. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were really cheap at the time.
Right. So
And they're hard to find now, and they're
yeah.
super expensive. And he's like, "This is like my favorite guitar."
Sure
And
it
like,
is. It's next to the 20-pound weight. Okay.
yeah, my dad like who doesn't even play guitar was like, I had one of those.
Yeah, I think they were like a Sears like type catalog thing, like a because the bodies were like plastic. And
Yeah, he's like they were basically like the gig maker, like he like the
Right.
cheapy little things that you. And Chad was telling us his favorite guitar. And it was like it's like the best, dude. That like barbell, that bar came like within millimeters from smashing that thing.
Oh fuck!
I was like, oh my god, could you imagine that? If I smashed Chad Blake's
Horrible.
band. Yeah, that was. But everything was cool. Everything was cool.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah, and it wasn't.
That's
but
another story that should be in perspectives too, man. What
did
the
I
fuck?
not? Did I not put that in there?
No, I don't think that was in there.
I think some of the stuff I'm telling you right now is like maybe like 10 years like later, like I'm not in the industry anymore, and like I'm not worried that I like
Oh,
if
okay.
Chad
Yeah,
found out
right,
that like
right.
I almost broke his Dan Electro. At that point, I'd probably like I'm not gonna tell Chad like I almost broke his Dan. I want to record with him again,
Right. Fair enough. No, that makes a good point. You never know where things go, and so much of this stuff, is, especially in the heat of it, I don't know, but
Yeah,
fuck,
totally.
fuck, damn, that's bonkers. But
Yeah,
what a crazy experience, especially post when you've recorded before. Like, what was the experience like from recording with some of your college bands to recording?
Oh, dude, kidding me?
Right. Well, I mean, were you playing to a click before being in this studio? Because for a drummer to play, oh fuck, so to play to a click for the first time, then this heavy of a situation had to be super stressful.
We didn't play to a click on Year of the Crow.
What? Oh no shit.
Chad Blake does not like clicks.
Okay, cool.
So the first time I played to a click was Let It Go.
Okay. And
yeah, did I play for click with that one? I don't even know if I played to click with that.
Okay, shit.
Maybe, I don't know actually, because Dom, so we recorded was Let It Go with Dom Monks, who was working with Chad Blake. We met him from he was like the engineer, like he was like probably 23 or 24 or something.
Yeah.
Working with Chad Blake. He was the guy who was just like his right-hand man.
Oh, okay, cool.
And eventually I think he did sound for us. Yeah, he did some live sound for us when we toured in Europe, and then he engineered our record, the next record.
Gotcha.
I don't even know if he maybe played to a click.
Damn, because that, as far as doing harmonies and shit, that can make your life way easier if everything's to a click. Fuck.
Oh yeah,
right.
We definitely played the last record. I think there was some clickage there, a lot of clickage, because the guy Craig Welsh liked clicks.
Okay.
And that made it easier to know if I was doing all right.
Right. As opposed to just doing millions of takes until it was pocket.
Yeah, we didn't have time to do a lot of takes with Chad Blake. I mean, because we were playing a lot for the studio, and Chad Blake would work from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. He wouldn't go over. He was good enough, where he's like, dude, this is what I do. Even 11 to 9, he's like, I'm stretching it for you guys,
That's a long day when you think about it, you know what I mean? But especially for someone of that velocity, you know what I mean? Or that tier.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember getting in there and stick clicking. I would stick click probably 8 stick clicks or something, instead of 4. And I would be sitting there, and I would just get in the zone. I'd be nodding my head to the beat, to the tempo I wanted. I was trying to really get in the zone, because I knew that it was going to be a complete take.
Right.
Because I couldn't. You can't really start cutting and pasting a lot of things.
Not when you're not to a click, and when you know what I mean, and when you're trying to when you're trying just to knock it out. At that point, it almost seems Even though it's a whole song's worth of a take, right? You would have to
Yeah,
just redo it.
it was like, this is it, dude. Like, we got to get these things, and I mean, that's it. It had such more of that raw feel.
Right. But that's what's so cool about that record. Like,
Right. That's why a lot of people were like, these guys suck now.
no, man, that record's the shit. That record is. It bounces everywhere. Like it hits the like. I'm trying to think of. There's that one like about the guy coming in on the boat. It's like this weird rhythm.
Oh
It
yeah,
has
Benjamin Darling.
yes, and then there's like at the very end, Fall of American Empire has got like all these horns and shit. And
Oh yeah.
Guantanamo comes kicking in with like this fucking heavy as shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then there's a lot of like the like ska punk stuff with something with no names. Why can't I think of the song?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
Thieves.
But the Gang of Thieves.
Not Gang of Thieves. There was another
That, but
one,
that
but
was
that was
on that
yeah, that
too.
was on there too. But that was like
Was it? Or no, wait, was that Let It Go? No, wait.
no Gang of Thieves was on that one,
It was.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
and CIA. Like that record kicks, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
It's yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of energy on that record.
right,
So like recording that record, like before each song, like I was like I gotta get in like this zone. Like I wanted to like portray the energy, that our live energy, into that record. Like that's where my head was at. And I think, and Chad Blake was really encouraging of that. You know, he would basically, we would end up with two drum takes at the end of a song.
right,
He would say, this song, this drum take is kind of like, straight down the middle, like the fastball kind of thing. And this drum take is dangerous. This is the dangerous take. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's kind of like, it's almost like falling off the rails, but it's not. And like, it was interesting to see which ones he would recommend to take the dangerous take over the safer take, and which ones Chad would choose,
Right.
to take the dangerous take over the safer take.
Was there like did you notice like a weird pattern with it? Was it like more of the upbeat songs or in the danger zone per se, or like?
I think all of them had some in the danger zone, Dave. Let's be honest, dude. It's always going to be one take that's a little bit dangerous. When you got me, you tell me to record a song 4 times, take 4 or 5 takes. There's going to be one of them that's going to be, pushing the limits.
Right. Well, it's kind of like that. Was it that acceptance of like going through the stages of grief, the stages of, is this the take? This one's gonna be good. This one, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's like stages of takes that line up with that. But wow, what a bonkers first like studio like real deal experience to go from like home recording or small to like this boom drum case loaded fucking real deal.
Yeah, and he'd like to try to get the guitars and the bass takes from that were with the live take.
Okay, so you'd go and demo it, then roll in. Okay.
And then kind of roll, and then would like do it, and like he would try to like partition off, like Chad and Chuck were playing with me, to get the energy, and he would try, he would ideally, he wanted that like that band feel, he was an old school guy,
Yeah.
he was recording when like that was the Rolling Stones, like recorded like. That's what they did, right? They had like 3 microphones on the drums, or Led Zeppelin. They had like a 3 or 4 microphone system, and they took these like crazy drum takes, and a lot of the guys would be like, we'd be playing with them, and then if you use the take that was with the drum, why not? Like you're playing, that's a live take.
It's that whole like to the click thing, the perfection that music has now. Like it's really interesting because like a lot of those records that are so impactful don't have that. You know what I mean? Not like most classic rock records aren't playing to a click. They speed up and slow down, but you don't notice that because you're riding it, And like, and I don't know if that's just kind of like the medium of how like music's put out now. Music's put out in this like really. I mean, sure you can speak way more on it than I can, but like it seems to be very single based, everything's perfect. You know what I mean? It's going through this digital platform that's fed to your taste, and like so much of like like we were saying before, so many people are putting stuff out, and like if it isn't perfect, it's not even going to be heard remotely in the same tier of what the mainstream of stuff that's being dished out. Like, and it makes sense why so many stuff is quantized and auto-tuned, because you can't worry about that. There's so much other shit that's got to come post that recording of it that has to be
Right.
perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching Dave Grohl talk about recording Nevermind, and Butch Vig suggested to put a click track to Lithium. And he said, when you're a drummer and someone tells you you should play to a click track, it's like taking a broken drumstick and like slamming it through your heart. You know what I
Right.
mean? Stabbing you in the heart and being like,
I'm
you
not
know, it's
good.
like,
Yeah.
it's like it's an insult, you know, for a drummer to say they need to play with a click. And that's what he was thinking in the early 90s. Now it's like assumed, can you play to a click?
Right.
Like that's a skill. Like
It
you
is.
just play to the click. Like you should. Like that's what we want. You play to a click.
Yeah,
But
it's crazy. It's a weird mind. Like, even kind of speaking on the Stones, their drummer is like a fucking metronome. He doesn't do shit that's really
yeah,
flashy, but he's in the pocket, and it probably comes from years of recording like how he did, having to lay it down so everyone can play around.
yeah. He is totally like that. I was like, who recorded that? Ethan Johns or something like that. That the guy who did it. I think
Um,
that like the guy Dom had worked with him too at one point. That recorded us.
oh,
Worked with
okay.
these super like great producers. Um, but yeah, he said that like that's what they did, and he kind of took that though when he produced that. You know, it was like he wanted to get us all playing at the same time. Like he wanted to preserve that kind of feel.
Right.
He was so a lot of the state radio stuff that we had done after like Year of the Crow, Us Against the Crown was more trying to be the organic, you know, the touring band kind of sound,
Right.
the energy, high energy level, and I guess it didn't like translate as well. I don't think to some people who like the more um, produced kind of reggae-ish sounding
Right.
stuff on Us Against the Crown, and that's I think, and coming from Dispatch to that Us Against the Crown, that sounded more like what you'd want to hear than I think you come from Dispatch and you hear Year of the Crow.
Right. That's A and B, and like that really defies the difference. Because like, even I think there was like a reunion show in between or something, and they did some stuff off Us Against the Crowd, like a
Right.
and it fits in that repertoire because the guy writing it is in, that's part of his expression is that medium, and like,
Right.
but that, I don't know, that's it makes sense that, but it's so much more definitive of what's to come later.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Us Against the Crown was recorded over a long period of time, but I know that some of the tracks, the Maroon 5, eventually Matt Flynn, I think the guy who drums with Maroon 5, just some drumming on Us
Oh,
Against
no
the Crown.
shit, I didn't know that.
Uh, it's kind of like a much slicker sound, you know?
Right.
It's probably slicked and nice and packaged, smooth. Um,
Which is a skill, it's a skill to do that. It's just a different thing,
yeah.
and like
Yeah.
I'd imagine that record was chunked together more over a longer period of time than this record, or Year of the Crow being slammed together in the moment, 'cause the pressure and like the timing, and like with
Yeah.
the actual band that's doing it and developing it.
Yeah. Different people record. I know Craig Welsh, who did our last record, did some Us Against the Crown tracks, I think. Yeah, it was like pieced together.
Right.
Different studios, different players, but it all sounds more like it's coming from that Dispatch era to me, at least. I don't know.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, even like Man in the Hall, right? It's got that like weird beatboxy like intro, right? Like on
Yeah,
the record, but live it was completely different.
and that record where a lot of those songs were the first tryout when he was playing though. Like we play "Write Me Up for Me," and I'm like, dude, this ain't Rage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
those were the tunes he was playing me, and I'm like, dude, you told me you wanted to be like Rage and Tool. Like, what are you talking about? You know?
So, like, you guys, I mean, there was that whole like Dave Matthews like chain of shows, right? Was that
Yes.
before Year of the Crow was recorded or post?
I think it was post.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely post Year of the Crow recorded.
Because now that I think about it, like, well, first of all, how was that as far as like opening for those guys? Was that cool?
Amazing.
Right? Were they cool? Like, I don't like.
Totally cool.
They didn't put like poo poo on.
Dude, I was Dave Matthews came before each show
Right.
and like introduced the opening band.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's this story. Yeah.
Which is like, who does that? Like, if I was him, I would be nowhere near the stage at 4:45 or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? Or
Right,
6 o'clock or whatever. I don't know. It was 4:45, but like 6:45 or whenever it was before like the opening band goes on to like play for like 6 songs to like 1/10 of the venue.
Right.
He'd go out there and he'd spend time with us, talk to us. And for a couple minutes, and then go introduce us. And I'm like,
sick.
super friendly,
Yeah.
And he's just like, just joking around with us. Like, how he's on like SNL or like, the late night shows, and he seems kind of quirky and kind of funny.
Right.
That's exactly how he is. Like, he's like, yeah, like he was talking about like something like having civil, like, she said something about like if we're not on time, she like sticks her boot up our ass or something. And he's like, oh, how do I get that boot up my ass or something? Like he just like just said something like that. And I'm like, he's just like who's just like a shoot the shit kind of guy,
Right.
And I remember he was talking about how he had like a throat lozenge in. And he said like, I'm sucking on this lozenge. He's like, isn't that a weird word? Like, suck or something like that. And he's like, sounds funny. And then he's like, okay, here's a band that doesn't suck. Like that was how he got out of it when he was introducing us. I remember like walking on stage and being like, dude, you nailed it. And he was like, he's like, yeah, right. He's like, dude, I barely got out of that one. Like he was just like a guy, like you felt like he was your friend, like immediately, which is amazing for a person who is that,
Right.
famous.
Right.
And that influential.
That's cool. That's cool because usually you don't see that. I mean, maybe it's a Dave thing. Like Dave Grohl seems cool too. Like,
yeah,
it seems like you're getting the person they're putting on.
Yes. So Dave Grohl, this guy drove us around in England. Had met Dave Grohl, and he said Dave Grohl is like a regular guy.
That's cool.
Sam Smith, he's like a regular guy. He's a cool guy.
Did you guys ever cross paths with the Foo Fighters? Besides, like, I remember you did write about something in the book about seeing a show.
Yeah. See, I mean, dude, like, Dave Grohl is like my
shit.
Man.
Right.
But no, I've never met Dave Grohl. I wish.
Perspective. Yeah. Part 3. Come on.
Part 3, baby. Part 3. But I have this idea of like, I want to record like these old like B-side Nirvana tracks.
Yeah.
I want Chuck to do that with me.
That'd be
Instead,
sick.
But he's like, maybe we should do Remote Players Club stuff. And I was like, well, I want to do this old B-side Nirvana project, though. He's like, yeah, we could do that, too.
Do both. That'd be rad.
I know. But he was basically like, yeah, the Nirvana thing, like, why don't you spearhead that? And you could play some guitar on it. And like, but what I wanted to do was just play a drum track and have him do all the instruments and all the singing. So like, he kind of like caught on to my like lazy ways.
He's like, oh, wait, I got to do
now,
this.
Yeah. I got to do that. I got to do it now myself. But Dave Matthews, back just real quick. Like, so the crew, actually the Carter's drum tech gave, when I walked on stage and my stick bag, like a couple sticks fell into my bag because it's just broken and kind of old. He actually, the next day, he gave me one of Carter's old stick bags.
Oh, shit. Sick.
Just like, which was like much better than my one that I had, even though it was old. And he's like, we're just going to toss this anyway, like this is the old thing. He just gave it to me. And I'm like, I was talking to other people on the crew, and he's like, they had like, they had catering and all amazing stuff like B Wood. And one of the guys saying like the guy who's been on this crew like the least amount of time is like 10 or 15 years. He's like, once you get on this, like you realize how like great of an employer Dave is. Like no one leaves this gig.
Damn.
Because he's so nice and he treats everyone so well, and he gives everyone, like he respects everybody. And I'm like, dude, you never hear that when you get into the bowels of,
Right.
an operation, you know what I mean? Like, but everyone that I talked to there only had good things to say.
That's amazing. Because even when you go to the venue and you talk to the sound guy, like, oh fuck, these guys are getting like,
Yeah.
the be able to run a ship like his show, like that's a pretty, like just talking what state radio needed to keep going, right? And Dave Matthews like setup is a way big, it's a bigger band, you know what I mean? Like
Way bit, yeah.
so that to be able to keep that much of a cool collective and that your crew that happy, that says a lot about the person.
I don't know if this is true. I'm wondering. I think he took like a year off at one point. I think that I caught wind that he like paid everybody though for that year or something. I don't know if that's true, but like that's like the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that wouldn't surprise me if that was true, based on what the people were telling me, what it was like to be on that team. It can't hurt to have like that kind of
rumor
budget. Rumor. Yeah, I heard that they got a rumor. Yeah, so like, yeah, if it didn't happen, then let's pretend it did. But to have the budget, like he's playing big venues and making decent money. I mean, I guess he just didn't really care about sharing. Like he was just generous, like he just share it. And I'm sure that he got enough for himself. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was like sharing it probably and like going hungry, but still, like. If you're the guy writing those tunes and everyone's telling you that you're the guy, like no one else would be anywhere without you, which a lot of the times in this industry it's true.
Right.
Like it's probably hard to keep an even keel and be like, yeah, well, you know what, but I want from everyone down to like the people loading in the gear, setting up the stage, cooking the food to be happy.
Right. That's hard to keep that balanced in like how you're saying, be constantly fed that you're the shit. Like
yeah, because it could be like, well, we could get away with paying this guy this much, and he'd definitely still do it.
Right.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because it was like when state radio would, like I was saying, it was like, this is where we're at with you guys. You could either take it or leave it. It's like there's a million other people who would play with Chad.
Right. Fuck.
Like yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
Right.
And it's not like I'm going to go out and like play in front of as many people if I'm not playing with them. Like it's just a fact.
Right.
So and you have people around you telling you that all the time. Like it's pretty hard to keep an even head, I think.
Right. Well, and it's just that definitely it's kind of like how you were talking about being on tour and playing these big shows. Everyone has the perception that you're killing it. On all ends. But really, it's just that kind of social construct, or that almost like what you see on social media, a false kind of truth. Like, that is true. We are playing this venue. We did sell that out. That's great. But still, I'm still eating McDonald's because I don't want to pay too much. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And not that, like, so that it's an interesting dynamic.
And the other thing about it is, you don't realize, but your life doesn't stop. You're still a human being on the road. Right. So like, if you have a conversation with your girlfriend 10 minutes before you go on the stage and like it's getting crappy, like you gotta hang up, and you're out there playing, and you're like, in the mind, like, oh my girlfriend is just screaming, like that. Right. It's like this stuff happens, you're like, life doesn't stop. There's still like, you still have relationships and things that you're trying to foster, from afar, and that's very difficult. Anyone that's on the road it's difficult to keep a marriage together.
Right.
Those guys on the road, like their kids are, you're missing your kids' recitals, when you're playing, you're missing birthdays,
yeah.
Still have like all the things that you take for granted, that you are not working when people are working, but you're working when people are not working. So
right.
When they're being entertained and in the most like free form of their life, they're seeing you doing something. They're assuming that like, oh, you're like, this is great. Like you just get to live like in this world of like free time and like entertainment and pleasure and like and make a ton of money and like you haven't made.
Right.
And it's like, well, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of these musicians, they get divorced, you know, like
Right.
it's difficult to keep a marriage together, like keep your kids happy. It's tough, man. It's not an easy job.
No. And those other joys are now, you know, what you would have normal joys enjoy. Like that's put in a different spot. You know what I mean? Like you can't really, I don't know. Like, do you think you'd be able to pull off family life now, living that type of thing?
Oh, dude, I can barely. It's tax season right now. I'm working Saturdays, and that's tough.
Yeah.
My wife to like, she works all week, and then she has to watch the kids all, you know, the
Saturday,
whole day.
right?
And they're like, you know, they're madmen right now. 3 and 5. We're in a pandemic.
Right.
We're like going out and like taking them all these different places. You know, it's just. And I'm just at the office, you know. I feel like I'm like on vacation at the office, you know, doing work. So it's
right.
yeah.
Look at that.
I can't be gone for weeks at a time.
Right. Damn. Yeah. No. So that would in with what you have going now, it would have been like near very difficult. Like
yeah, if I came back with millions of dollars, I think that might solve a couple issues.
Sure.
You know, but
right.
If I came back with 20 grand a year, it wouldn't be good.
Right. What's the gig you got going now? We didn't address that later.
Oh, I do like financial advising.
Oh, okay.
That's what cool. And taxes, accounting stuff.
Nice, because like in the book, you got the whole like the Zen philosophy of like investments, and I'm like, damn, you should write a book on this because this.
The trading, the day trading.
Yeah. Like.
Yep. That's what a lot of it is too. It's like going through like, you know, what people, their risk tolerance is and what their goals are and what they're willing to kind of, you know, how long of time horizon they have, what they're willing to risk percentage wise, and then kind of trying to give them ideas and, you know, based on someone who's in the industry every day, this is what's available to you based on what I'm hearing. Do any of these sound good to you? So, you know, giving someone just like kind of a broader palette and then being able to manage the emotion of it all.
Right. Because it's someone's money and you're putting it in you're putting in a thing. It's like putting the bill together. Like this is a local band. They might draw enough to fill the show. They might not. It's like kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit. This is a riskier play right here.
Right.
You know, but this is going to cost you more money, or it's going to cost you time. Like in order to get this return, you gotta, you know, you can't get your money for a couple of years or something, unless you want to risk it. It's, you know, it's the whole going through the landscape and getting to know people and what their hopes are and what their expenses are, and you know, well, if you do this, we could help you with taxes. You know, this would help you in your tax situation. I do tax returns, life insurance.
Damn.
Stuff like that, you know. As a small business guy, you got to know kind of how it all fits together, or you're, you know, there's a lot of competition.
Right. Damn.
So you got to kind of know a little bit of everything, I feel like.
Yeah. But that kind of goes in with the whole music thing. Yeah, I got to learn the whole ropes of that too. So you're coming, and it's a similar field in a way of like having to learn all this shit to do the 2%, right? They go back to the full service thing of maybe 2% of the time you're gonna double up what you put in. Like,
yeah,
but
yeah. It's
I don't know financially if that makes sense, but musically,
it does. It all fits together, you know. It's like and you, with different people too, you need to relate it to them. Like you can't just give them a financial term or this is, you know, a percentage, or, you know, some people are like, okay, well, in your life, like, this is what you're looking to do. So, like, if you took this path, this is how I see, like, you know, the analogy being to make it make sense to you.
Right.
And I think that's, like, kind of like the role of what I try to do is relate to the person and give them guidance for them to ultimately make the decision that they want to make.
Right.
As opposed to a wealth manager that just says, give me the money, I'll make you money. You know, I don't want you to have input. Where my structure is more of like, you know, I'm the guy. You always call me. You can always text me. You can come to me. I want to get to know you and kind of help you guide yourself. So you're more of an active participant in the process.
Right.
That
So
tailor
in
it
a
to the
way, it's
person.
supposed to just take over.
Right. I mean, some people are like, yeah, dude, I don't want to be involved in that. That's too. Some people, it's the right fit for them.
Right.
But that's kind of how I structured the finance stuff and accounting stuff. My dad's an accountant. He's been an accountant for years, and he had like the tax practice going, and bookkeeping and consulting, and a little wanted to get more into the financial advising stuff. And I was kind of day trading on the road, and it was a natural progression for me to kind of take the reins of that, building that division of the company.
Right.
So then I've kind of built that now to where I'm working with, more clients, and I'm learning more about, as I'm doing that, I'm learning more about taxes, and I've done tax returns for a long time now. And you start to build like different skills,
Right. Well,
to be
that's
able
a
to
whole
help
nother
people.
field, right? And like a lot of that is learning the bureaucracy of like how those how those systems work, and being able to
Right.
move everything in the right way, and like how you said, help out what the person's actual goal is, knowing the map to it. That's pretty badass, man. That's pretty
Yeah, I mean
badass.
that's like the structure of this particular company, right? And I've worked at bigger companies where it's just like we just do this, and we just have like the big name, and this is what we do.
Right.
Um,
That's going back to the DIY, the punk rock route.
yeah, it's punk rock. Except I just actually switched over to using Charles Schwab as the brokerage account, where I hold most of the assets. So people who now are in it, I was with the broker dealer before, and it was like, it was Pershing, and I'd have to make all the trades for him and all that stuff. Now it's more of a personalized kind of thing where like you can kind of go in and you get the app on your phone, and you kind of use the Schwab platform, but you have access to different technology that's like unique to my firm. So trying to like get like a hybrid going, where people like can have access to all the tools that they'd want if they did go with the brand name, right?
Right.
But you still have, the punk rock end of it, where it's like the person's, like trying go like really paying attention to what you exactly,
Are
the
doing.
DIY, like
Yeah.
it's like, what exactly do you like? I get that, you want to make money, but like, what's the end goal? Like, it's not like tangible. Like, yeah, you want to make money, but if you're spending way more money than you're making, like, you're not going to be in any good spot, right?
Right. You gotta be
So
realistic about it.
yeah, it's like, so you really need to. I feel like you really need to know the person. And a lot of these robo advisors, or like these cheap platforms, they're great for like execution, but they're not really getting to the heart of, what like the human experience is, and what like you're really feeling when you're trying to balance your expenses versus, or like, when should I retire?
Right.
You could have like a generic one size fits all program that like is on one of these robo platforms, but like this is going to be very generic. It's not, just by nature, it's not going to be able to really get into, what a human being can like listen to what you're saying,
Right.
and then interpret it in the way that like, okay, that's what you're saying. But if you wrote that down to like a robo advisor, they'll interpret it in a different way, because you're not like really diving deep with the person.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes it's looking at some of the robo, like the kind of like apps, like what like Robinhood, and
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying
then
to
those
think,
are right, and those are
even though that's
great.
more
So
investing or in
yeah,
stocks
but
and
like
stuff.
Schwab has Robinhood totally upset the landscape, right?
Right, with
And
the
you could
GameStop.
GameStop was insane, and they also do share slices. You get like certain little percentages of shares. Schwab does that now too. Like, I think that stuff is great, and I think everyone should be able to have access to that kind of trading and those kind of platforms as well. I don't think it's like where, oh, I know best because I'm the advisor, and I don't allow, you give it to me and
Inside.
I just deal with
Right.
it. Like, I think that doesn't scare me, like I'm all for the fintech and the technology and like people trading on their own, and that's great. But like if you want some like a human being who's in the industry to talk to you about your goals and like your fears and your emotions, like you're saying, I've read about like the trading, like the emotions of trading and like the emotions around money, and actually come up with a concrete retirement plan or a plan to achieve that goal, as well as like what kind of insurance should I get, or like how
Right.
would this affect me with taxes, or I could maybe I could save you some money doing your taxes too. That's where you kind of provide the value, because how can you compete with like Robinhood going out with free trades and
Right.
like app on your phone? Like you need, I don't want to compete with that, man. Like I'll give you all that too. You can make your trades on the Schwab platform, but if you want like some advice from someone who's trying to understand you and the emotions behind it and the goals and what else could be helpful for you and your family, set up a 529 plan for your kids.
Right. Or a
So
person that knows the road of it. And like you're saying, so many of those things play into each other. And it's hard
yeah, and
to
you just seen it,
right.
like you might not know it because you don't do this every day, and that's
Right.
all it is. It's not like I'm smarter than anybody else or better than you, right? You know what I mean? You're like that's why I want you to tell you and you to make the decision, because you know better than me.
Right.
It's your money, not mine.
Like it's kind of in a weird analogy of it, like with how many people can record now and learn to record and
Yeah,
make their own records. Well, do you want to put that time and money into learning to do that yourself, and not as much time in making a good song? You know what I mean? The song the best it can be, where you can go with someone who can record it and like
right.
show you what you have. Okay, you can go with this take or the danger take.
Right. And also be like, how do you want it to sound? I want to help you make it sound like you want it to sound. It's not going to
Right.
be like, I recorded the song, maybe I'd want it to be mixed and mastered like this, but like, I'm not the one, it's not my song at the end of the day, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's like I personally wouldn't put a mullet mic on it, but maybe that's how you want your harmonies, or like,
Yeah.
or Kanye. Maybe I wouldn't make those harmonies so high up. That's pretty squeaky, kind of chipmunk
Yeah.
like. Like,
But it's your song. Do you like the Chipmunks? You
you
put the
do
Chipmunk
you,
in there.
you do
Yeah,
you.
exactly. And the funny thing though is like is with the stock market, like you can't predict it though, right? Like
Right.
I wrote about, like you can't predict where it's gonna go. Like you get guys telling you these things. It's like they don't know. They
Right.
really don't know.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's the
Yeah.
crazy thing about it.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't know how that show's gonna go in Kentucky either. You know what I mean?
Right. It'll be the best show you ever played.
Right. That's awesome though. That's because like it's cool. Like kind of to jump back, like when you were doing day trades, like how were you doing it then? Were you using some type of online platform to do that, or were you just through
Yeah.
your yeah? Okay.
I was doing like, yeah, Infinity Futures was one of them. And I would trade the futures
Right.
market.
Damn.
Kind of get methods in there, but I would have that day, it'd be the day was free, and when we were on the bus, there was internet on the bus.
Nice.
Um, so I'd be cranking out trades and working on methods, and dude, I loved it. I mean, it was fun. It was fun for me. So
It seems
it could pass the time.
right. And like it's something you got to think out, strategize, and when you have the time to do that, you know.
That's the greatest thing about it all, right? Like when you're being creative or trying to like, is having the time to like taking the time to kind of think about it and having that time to do that. And that was a good thing about being on the road as a musician too. So you did have a lot of time, because you were like, you're kind of trapped. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right. It'd be more costly to go somewhere else, and like, at this point, you're here, make the most of what you got. Like we're hanging out in the Walmart parking lot until tomorrow, like, or
Yeah,
whatever.
you're literally driving. Like
Yeah,
you
right.
can't get out. Like we only stop every 2 hours. You got that poop in your butt, you hold it. You know,
Yeah,
um, it's just like, all right, cool. I got some time on my hands. What am I gonna do?
right, right. Well,
And then,
what better way to like take the little you're making and try to make the most of it? You know?
right, and you know what though, like that puts you in a headspace though, because you're gonna lose trades too. So you're like
Right.
losing money you don't have, and when you win, it's just like, it's so great. But like the emotions that you go through, because, and I think it helped me a lot as an advisor, because a lot of advisors, I think, this is the way it is. This is the method. This is, just give it and we'll do it. It's like, well, there's a lot of emotions that go into, someone,
Right. Well,
when their money and
right.
yeah.
So much time is put into that. You know what I mean? Like, so much time
Right.
is put into that money. And like,
Yeah, to making it, to accumulating it, and Lord knows, I know how hard it is to accumulate money.
Right,
like I
right.
was in a situation where I couldn't accumulate money for years, and I was working towards it, and it's a tough thing, man. And I think that even with this pandemic, like, there's a lot of people, the people who already have the money, have the assets, their assets have inflated and become worth more.
Right.
The people who have nothing, it's that much harder for them to acquire assets.
Right. Definitely shouldn't have invested in Zoom.
Yeah. Oh man.
Fuck.
Zoom. Yeah. Kind of come back a little bit lately though. I don't know. Is it a buy now? Is it a buy? What's it out now?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, so many people are using that platform to do everything. Schools.
Oh yeah.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, that definitely had to go up since the pandemic. I don't know the exact numbers.
Oh, it did. It went up big time.
I'm just kind of dabbling in that mindset of stuff. I really, I really haven't. So I'll probably be hitting you up for advice.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to talk more about. Did you do any GameStop?
No. When that all was going on, I was doing this fundraiser for a student of mine to get a service dog, right? I did like a week of streamed concerts. So I was just like
awesome
focused on that. And like, I remember me and actually the janitor. So during the day, what I do is I teach. I think I told you this, right? I teach at a charter school for kids with autism. I do a music program, pre-K to senior
high. Oh, do you really?
Yeah. That's my day job. It's sick. And like,
wow, yeah, my wife works at a school with kids with autism.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, she's the clinician there.
Clinician? Okay.
Yeah.
So like for like in a specific field, like speech or just like,
she's like basically the social worker that deals with that deals with the high level, like the kids are kind of getting out of control situation. Right. Has to deal with the parents.
That's a big deal because parents are super like it are that's talk about handling emotions. Parents are particular, and rightly so. But but that
and they're under a ton of stress. I mean, having a non-typically developing child is it's an extremely stressful situation.
Right, and like it's hard to do. It's hard to make the best when someone is learning to communicate or can't. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh, dude. If they didn't have services like they did now, I mean, the people with autistic kids like 50 years ago, their life must have been like, you must have felt hopeless.
Right. Right.
Now, at least you have some hope with people like you and my wife, like working with them, like dedicating their lives to trying to like make these kids' lives better and the parents' lives better.
Right. That's so cool. That's awesome. How'd you guys meet? Like, is this the girlfriend?
She played in Chad's solo band.
Wait, what? No.
Yeah.
Wait.
Solo band.
Wait, who was she?
Say radio blew up. Seji is her name.
Okay. And she played.
She was the keyboard.
Oh no shit! I think I remember chatting with her at fuck, and one of the solo tours with Buffalo, Great White Buffalo at
Yeah, she was with White Buffalo. Yeah, she was on that tour.
Right.
She's like
in Columbus.
Yeah, she's like small. She's pretty sweet.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. How'd you guys meet?
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, we just met at Chad had a party when the Patriots were in the playoffs. So he played Tim Tebow and the Broncos, and she was there.
Right.
Then she Facebook messaged me on the Facebook.
Snap.
Yeah, but I think I had her number.
That's that's when you use the NOBL, right?
Yeah, you know that. Yeah, she read that. She's like, she gets mad about that. She's like, you use all those methods on me. You actually don't love me. You just like keep saying these things. I'm like, did I really use those things? Did I really do those things? she's like the one thing was the betting situation was not great because I remember I did have a high thread count sheet, which is an NBOL,
Yeah.
but like it ripped, and
Oh
like she
shit.
actually sewed it back together because I was too cheap to buy another freaking sheet at the time.
Oh
Man, that's
damn,
funny.
that's awesome. Well, do you guys like jam? Is there like music going on?
Ah man, like she thinks that like my music's too noisy and and
Okay.
just aggressive, like
Right.
recently I've been trying to get her to help me like more like popify my music. I
Right.
want to like I wanted to like I guess you get into like so like I was totally true to like my Nirvana influence, like I was
Right.
like so true to it. And now I want to learn more about like keys, and I'm not with my guitar playing. It's more like I just kind of slap the chords together, whichever sounds right to me.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is like I'm changing keys and doing all that stuff because I mean Kurt did that, but I think Kurt knew what he was doing. You
Well,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
no, for sure. That's
but like
those
for
songs are
me, like yeah, I like I'm doing it, but I don't know.
it sounds good. It works. Not everything like it's chromaticism. That's how that gets that progression.
Yeah, exactly. But like Cobain, like he would do such cool things, and like
Right. And hit home with like a key bass or something, like, and then it goes into a progression that sounds familiar type deal. And
right,
like,
yeah, he knew like low. So I wanted like, and she's like very good with like harmonies, and she's such a great musician.
does
So
she have
now that I'm kind of going on that path, she's like
right?
she's more willing to help me.
That's cool. That's cool. Did she have her own group beforehand, or just like somehow like buddied up, like it somehow got hired in the solo dolo project?
She knew Chad's brother from college.
Oh, who's playing banjo?
Yeah, Will.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep, yeah. She knew Chad's brother, and he knew she was like she was in like a cappella.
Oh
Um,
shit.
she was always in bands and stuff like that growing up. Her dad was like the in charge of the Glee Club at Yale for years.
Damn.
And then her mom and the two sisters, like her aunts or aunts, were in a band growing up called the Heath Sisters, and they would like just play a lot of the weekends, and she'd hang out with her cousins while like they do gigs. So she's been around music so much.
Right. Wow.
She
That's
yeah.
that's blowing my mind right now, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. She's really she's just a good person, I guess, more than the music stuff. But she's super talented musically,
What was it in?
and I wish that I just knew like what she knew musically, because I would be so much better at
Well,
music.
got plenty of time to learn. That's fucking awesome. That's so
I know,
cool.
but dude, you gotta understand, like when I'm like her husband, and I'm like
Right.
bugging her for so much other stuff and making her
Right.
watch the kids when I'm going, like, for me, when I like ask her to like teach me something musically or like do this musically, she's just like, get out of here, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to relax and get away from it.
Yeah,
And
there's
maybe
the balance of that.
I think maybe when like the kids are more grown,
Right.
and they're out on Friday night, like hanging with their buddies, or like they're on sleepovers or something, then I can be like, all right, now show me some stuff.
Teach me
Like,
about them minor thirds. How do those work?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. She knows. Like, she'll be like, you like hum something. She'll be like, she'll do like a harmony. She's like, that's a third, or that's a fifth. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, how?
did she go to school for music at all, or did she go to
No,
school
but
to work in social work?
she eventually went to school for social work. I don't think
Okay.
she did. She did a master's in social work, but
Damn. Damn.
yeah, she didn't. No, she's been around music since she's been a kid. Her mom is a music teacher.
Oh, okay.
Her
There you go.
aunt too. Her
Yeah.
grandmother was.
Fuck.
She's like, she just knows. It's just innate. Like,
Right.
they would do like family like songs. They'll be like, let's do the family hymn, or like a hymn, it's family song, and they all have different harmony parts, and I'm like, and they just kind of like expect me to like sing along. I don't even know the words, because it's just like, well, you just pick it up, dude. You just jam. You just fit your voice in. I'm like, I
Right.
don't know how to do that.
It's a different type of jamming, but that's super interesting. It's kind of like it's if you're born in that like, yeah, you hip to Victor Wooten at all? You ever check out his book,
Oh yeah,
The Music
I've
Lesson,
never.
right?
You say he has a book?
Yeah, he's got two now, but he's got a book called The Music Lesson, and there's
No,
this.
I never read it.
Oh, you gotta check it out. But there's this bit in there about how music's like language, and like the reason like people don't um, learn it as quickly is because you're told you're not good enough to talk to a professional or play with a professional until you get to a certain
Huh.
level. But when you're learning English, you don't think of it that way. You don't. No one says, "Oh, you're not good enough at talking to talk to me." You just talk. You're celebrated. All these babbling, like when babies babble, that's celebrated as opposed to like when someone's learning to play a song. It's not as you know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
that's the analogy. If you grow up in that environment with music teachers and you just harmonize like the grocery list and like fuck, how cool.
yeah, that's what it was like.
Damn.
It's amazing. Like they have the sister is her older sister's actually out in L.A. with her husband, and he does like spots for commercials. And she does she does a bunch of like freelance vocal gigs. She was on like Kids Bop, I think, one of the Kids Bops,
That's
like
sick.
things like that. She just gets random gigs because she could just sing anything.
Right.
You know,
That's incredible.
the
Damn.
brother's a great drummer. Younger brother's a great drummer, but he doesn't do it that much because it's probably like, if everyone's like that's what you're supposed to do, it's almost like kind of rebelling that you don't do.
Right.
It's
Right. You tried
but
to
he could do everything. You know what I mean? He could just sit down on a drum kit and rip. He can sing. Like all of those kids are just like super talented.
insane. That had to be like super like I don't know, like, oh, you're the professional musician, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know anymore.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, yeah, that's the thing. So like when I'm like hanging out with them, like I'm the least professional musician, but I probably have the most touring experience.
Right. And most real
Like
deal.
so, like most, like with the girl that I was with before, like my girlfriend when I was touring, like with her family, it was like this guy, is foreign stuff, like
Right.
as a musician, that's like a different breed. In this family, I'm like not musician enough. I
Damn.
don't like. I'm
Right.
not like singing the grocery list like you said. I'm just like I'm the least dedicated to to be a musician.
That's is there like a weird I mean, I guess now it'd be different, but like was there ever like this weird like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like um not jealousy, but just kind of like timidness or like fear, kind of weird competition between like both being musicians, like and like who's more competent within themselves with that
No,
way? No? Okay.
not with us. No,
Yeah, yeah.
not with. I mean, honestly, like I felt like I was less of a musician pretty quickly once I
Right.
saw what he could do.
Well, when you harmonize the grocery list, that's pretty rad. Um,
Yeah, like it was pretty humbling. So you kind of just like don't really talk about it much. Like sometimes
right.
they'll bring it up to me, even with their family. Like they might bring it up to me that they like acknowledging that like I'm like a drummer or
Right.
like drumming in a band that was a successful band. But I'd never really talk about it with them because like it's like pretty obvious that they're more talented than I am. You know what I mean? So it's really remarkable. They're like really really well versed in like music stuff.
Wow.
Musically,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they know lots of theory. They know how things are put together.
That's awesome. Well, I mean that's
Yeah,
really cool too, because like I
it's
think
cool.
personally on some of my old relationships, like when with one of my ex girlfriends who was a musician, there was like this weird competition. I'm like, I mean, I'm not doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
I have no merit to anything, and neither of us did. But she kind of made it there, and it was like, so I'm
You
always
got some
curious
merit
about
too. You
that.
got you got some things going on. Like
Well, and
I know I know what you're saying. Um, I think maybe because like at that point, like I was like kind of like soon after we had met, like State Radio kind of disbanded as
right,
well. and she kind of stopped being invited to play in the solo band as a result of that. So it was more like going through like a being like broken up with almost,
Yeah.
your band dissolving and like my music career kind of like switching,
Right.
and her and like us like kind of pivoting towards like, okay, like I guess that's just not like what our life is going to be.
Right.
Pretty quickly after, like, so it wasn't like we didn't have enough time. I bet you there would have been, if I was in my early 20s or something, and there'd definitely be some
Weird.
there would be
Yeah.
some competition going on about who's gonna make it and be more successful, and
Yeah. Interesting.
definitely.
That's so crazy because I remember that gig and meeting those homies in that band and being like, oh, that's neat. You know what I mean? But how like serendipical that you guys ended up. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of things you get out of the band too that are intangible. I met my wife through that band, and
Yeah,
um,
that's crazier to think of it. Like, damn, like all those experiences and all the volumes of perspective and a family and
yeah,
shit. Fuck, that's
right. And and at the end of the day, meeting your wife through the band actually is a huge cost, because now you got to pay for the wife and the kids.
right.
So I'm very negative now on the band experience. If I wasn't negative before monetarily, you better believe now, Dave, I'm pretty negative. Negative financially, but rich in love, rich in love.
Babu. Well, with that,
Right.
my friend, we've been at it for a minute. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
gonna.
have any more questions that I didn't answer though that
I
could go through real quick?
Oh man, I know I can think more, but I think that was I don't know, man. That was great.
Yeah.
Let's
No.
do a pretend sign off, and then I'll tell you how I'm gonna wrap this up. So,
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate your time so much. Oh, before we go, like Mad Dog, you don't like that, right? How'd this shitty nickname like actually come to be? Right?
well, how did the nickname come to be? Well, I think like the reason why I don't like Mad Dog is because whenever you hear like Mad Dog, and they
Right.
would write that on like the what do they call that? They give the venues
Oh, Rogister, right?
stage
Yeah.
plot, the stage
Stage.
plot,
Oh, okay.
and it would be like Mad Dog's drums or something. And so I get to a venue and like people would be like, "Who's Mad Dog?"
Oh, and then
And it'd be like,
he's
it'd
that
be like, I'd
radio
like
host.
raise my hand, yeah. And they'd be like, you don't look like a mad dog. It's like the opposite of like what, because you picture like a really tough, like biker,
Right.
bald guy, like
Right.
crush somebody's face. Um, the reason they were talking about nicknames, they said, Chaz, like, we need to give you a nickname for like one of the first shows. And we were driving down to Miss Austin, I think it was, 06. And they're kind of different names. And then one of the drummers for Bruce Springsteen, I think, was Mad Dog, was a nickname. I said, that's a cool nickname. And I think I was like, I don't know about that, like that's not that sweet at all.
Right.
And they're basically like, you're not supposed to like your nickname. Like your nickname, like, if you like your nickname, then we're not doing a good job of giving you the nickname.
I guess that's a point. Okay.
So then he kind of like manufactured that nickname and just called me that on stage until like people started calling me that. I never had the nickname before. I never liked the nickname. I didn't want the nickname, but it was just like that was what was decided upon as my nickname.
All right. Thanks, guys. Now I'm the mad radio host. It's Mad Dog and Nick in the morning. Like,
Yeah, like the Mike Mad Dog or whatever. Isn't there a guy named Mike the Mad Dog or something?
I don't. Maybe. I know the Mike Mad Dog I know is you, but
Yeah,
there might
yeah,
be another.
yeah. But like it was like my personality, I guess, is like kind of like jovial, I guess. Generally speaking, when you meet me, kind of like upbeat.
Right. No, fun.
Yeah, fun. I'm kind of like I'm not like a big dude either. I'm
Right.
like big and jacked up, or like like have like kind of a growly kind of personality. So when people like eventually asked who it was, and they're like pointed to me, they're like, "Come on, like you serious?" Like
This
that guy.
he's not mad at all.
So then the drumming, I guess, though, the aggressive drumming
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
makes sense, right?
Right,
So like
right.
if you're
Sonically.
saying it from the stage, it makes sense. Everything makes sense. So like he knew that, and he could like use that sounding board he has from the stage to give me that nickname that I did not want, and it would stick because it made sense.
Right. Oh, man.
That's great.
Yeah. Sick, man. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for chatting with me. I appreciate your time. I really do. I really enjoyed diving into this book and reading it, and like I hope there's more perspectives to come. And
Dude, I appreciate you even taking 5 minutes to look at that thing. That's
no,
cool.
it's
You read
great.
that.
It's great. I read the whole thing.
That's amazing.
Digital cover to cover. So
That's amazing.
all right. Well, thanks for hanging out, man.
Definitely.
All right.
I
So
really.
yeah, but I mean, I did get to hang out with Tom Morello and like some of this badass shit.
I mean, Rose, but not yet. Not yet.
I'm pretty sure Tom ain't gonna come my way.
You never know. You never know.
You're right. You're right. There's been stranger things. Like
Yeah, definitely.
beautiful, man. All right, man. I'll let you go. Thank you so much. This has been awesome, Mike.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good
All right,
night.
dude.
Peace.
All right, you too. Later.